Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome to the race reaction for the Hungarian Grand Prix. I'm laughing because I just totally made Stuart jump there. I didn't talk to him before the stream, so that was a great start. I hope you all enjoyed that one. I'll come to your chat, say hello, and I'll come and read some of your comments before we get into the rundown. But I'll say a very good afternoon, and I hope the heart's okay after that, to Stuart. Hello, Stuart.
Hello. Sorry, I was busy setting up my tabs and stuff because we didn't have as much time between the end of the race and kicking off as we normally do. So I was just slightly madly panicking and then poof in your ear. Hi. That was a race that happened.
Yes. I mean, guess first question, how did you rate that? I'm struggling a little bit. I think good feels about right, but there's a bit of me that looks at the race as a whole and really exciting opening few laps, bit of drama towards the end, and that spiced things up, that virtual safety car, which made it interesting. But there were some bits in the middle that were a little bit flat. But then can we name an F1 race where the bits in the middle aren't always flat? Because they tend to be, don't they, around strategy and things. So
Yeah, I went with okay this time. I think, there's some classic Hungarian sort of lack of overtaking going on through a lot of it. I think I said halfway through, or some of the way through this race, like I feel like there's a lot of stuff happening, and most of it not necessarily the racing. There seems to be a lot of sort of talking points appearing and things to kind of either get excited or upset about, but not necessarily all of it was kind of the on-track action that we maybe wanted. But in terms of coming into Hungary and what you might expect from it, I think this is sort of in that ballpark, I guess. So yeah, it happened, and a different flavor of results. So that's always welcome in a season like this.
yeah, no, I tend to agree. I can't. I'm not going to say great. I think my threshold for great is probably higher than it needs to be. I see great as something I want to watch time and time again, and I don't think I want to watch that time. I'll probably give it another watch. I think it was good enough to watch again. But I will say as well, apologies to anybody that can hear the fan now. I thought I'd get away with it. It's cooler today, but as soon as I turn them damn lights on, my God, it turns into an oven in here. So apologies for the fan noise, but yeah, it's fine. Let's say hello to everyone in chat quickly then. Hey to J Webb says Aston were fantastic. Demolish Haas, Williams and Colapinto. In particular, Stroll, he had a great pace. So yeah, we'll get onto Aston later, but what a weekend they've had. Hey to Kaori says was an okay race until OJP's unfortunate DNF made this race go from a 5 to a 6. Nick says enjoyed that with different strategies, keeping it interesting. Shame Oscar caused the VSC. Would have been a nice fight for second at the end. That's true. Yeah. I'm going to say Lewis or Louis. In fact, say Lewis Beer Reviews. There you go. I might have to check that channel out. I don't like the FIA keep giving Lewis penalties. Hey to Red Raven says I voted okay. For some reason, the phrase easy to digest came up and stuck with me. That's a fair point. Yeah, yeah. Max says, hello, friends. Hello, Max. Sab Mariners fan says, well, my prediction went to shit. Danger Ferrari, you had... sorry, dang it, Ferrari had one job. Tell me about it. I put on Blue Sky yesterday. They're going to kick me in the nuts again, aren't they? And guess what? They kicked me in the nuts again. Hey to Hurricane says, Lawson back to total midfield dominance. Kevin says, thumbs up, guys. Hey, Kevin. Lena says, good race, bad result. Why does Piastri always get the worst end of the stick? Hey to Professional Moron says, let's go. Lando. There you go. Hey to Alfie, to Pascal says good afternoon from the Hungaroring. How is everyone doing? Yes, Nico back in the points. Audi now P8 in the constructors. Great way to head into the summer break. Hope you've had a fantastic weekend in Hungary, Pascal. Very jealous. Would love to go to that track. Hey to Lee. Hey to Gingerfest as well. To Stewie. And we'll say hello. I think that's everyone. Say hello to Max again because Max said hello, Sean. There you go. We'll get on to the run through then. And we're starting with, and I honestly didn't think I'd say this, coming into this weekend, a McLaren win. Lando Norris won the Hungarian Grand Prix. I honestly came into this weekend thinking Ferrari would dominate because I'm an idiot and don't learn my lesson. I thought Mercedes would be right there with them. McLaren, Red Bull would be in a squabble behind and that would be it. But McLaren turned up yesterday, really. Friday was a bit quiet, turned up yesterday, took pole, took the win today, were for a good chunk of it, Stuart, on for a 1-2 as well. And I'm just a little bit surprised, but what a drive from Lando Norris in the end. I mean, did you think McLaren were going to be in the mix today?
By the end of qualifying, or by somewhere, when qualifying came around and watching qualifying and seeing they had pace, I thought they were going to show themselves. And there was a little bit of talk about that. I think they seemed quietly optimistic. I feel like Lando found something in Q3 that maybe Ferrari weren't expecting, and there was all that hullabaloo at the end of Q3 anyway. So it kind of, I was like you, I kind of felt like Ferrari still have a lot in hand and will probably find a way to take the lead at some point. This is all me thinking before the race started. Of course, between qualifying and the end of lap one, Hamilton got his penalty. Leclerc lost a hell of a lot of places at the start, and then they were kind of working off the back foot from there. And from then on, didn't seem to go well for them. But as we're focusing on McLaren, clearly had a lot of pace. And Lando had a lot of pace, particularly in the race, as he said many, many times, I think, when he was in second place, but clearly proved it once he was out in the lead. I think if you'd have told me any point up to when Carlos Sainz got himself involved, I think I still would have expected a Piastri Norris 1-2 in that order. Of course, things didn't quite work out that way, but otherwise, very, very strong showing from McLaren. I don't, after the race, David Croft started saying, like, how far back is Lando Norris from Kimi Antonelli? Can he make a put? I'm like, okay, this is just one race, and it's a very unusual track compared to some of the others. It doesn't have any of the really long straights, which have a big effect on this year's car. So let's not go crazy. But very, very well earned victory. I think he was the fastest guy there today. By quite a margin, I'd say. Like, once he got ahead of Piastri, well ahead of Piastri, pulled out, seemed to have something to prove, and he did.
Yeah, I think as well, historically, or recent history, McLaren have gone well here. So maybe in some ways it wasn't a surprise. Maybe this is the track in these regulations, like Singapore used to be for Mercedes, where it was a bogey track. They dominate much of the season and get to Singapore and be nowhere. Maybe that's the opposite for McLaren. Others dominating McLaren turn up, and I don't know. But I agree with you. It's one race. If Lando wins Zandvoort and Madrid, and he's in the mix in Monza and Baku and Malaysia and Singapore. I'm so excited. Sorry, we'll get to that later, I'm sure. Then maybe we can start talking, but I think Kimi Antonelli looking very, very good at the moment. A long way to go. Maybe a video in the summer break on that one. But Lando today, do you think, obviously he went wide at turn 2 at the start, didn't he? And I get the feeling, looking at his pace versus Oscar's pace in that second stint in particular, and then his pace at the end of the race, I do feel like I'm sort of relieved Piastri did get through at the start, because I can't shake the feeling Lando might have just disappeared with this one. So at least Norris going wide and Piastri getting through made it interesting. Obviously, we'll never know, but he was. I'm looking through the notes here. There's not much more to add than what we've said. I mean, a slightly slow first stop and still ends up in that. I mean, a slightly 3.7 seconds to change 4 wheels is ridiculous. I'll make that point as always. Had a wide moment at turn 4 that took some pressure off Piastri, but it was very quickly back on the back of him. Seemed to enjoy the hard tire more than Piastri, but I don't know if at that point Piastri may have been nursing an issue. McLaren suspect it could have been curbs, but we'll see what they say later on. There was one on social media contentious issue for most people, whatever. Lando wanted to stop, team wouldn't let him because Piastri was leading, and the papaya rules are clear that whoever's in front gets the first dibs on the pit stops. It works both ways, there's no controversy there. He wanted to pit, they wouldn't let him, as I say. Then he comes on the radio and says, I'm miles faster. Now, me being me, wrote in my notes, cool, pass him then. If you are miles quicker, overtake him. But that's not how F1 always works. McLaren let him run a little bit longer. Then we had the stuff with Sainz, which was maybe Sainz didn't see him. Clearly Williams weren't on the radio, but pretty bad form from somebody of his experience, I'd say. And that kind of opened the door for Lando to get to the win. But I'm not going to have a go at McLaren like a lot of people are on socials, like I say, because they could never have foreseen that Carlos Sainz was going to run Piastri off the road. They could never have seen that. So prior to that, I sent you the screenshot, didn't I, of the circle of doom that Multiviewer had. Piastri would have had the lead. So it was fine. Piastri was going to be back in the lead, and it was the Sainz thing that cost him that lead. Obviously, the gearbox would have probably kicked in anyway, but I don't think there's much in that on McLaren's side. I think people, Hungary, McLaren, papaya rules, maybe it gives people PTSD, I don't know, about what happened a few years ago, but I don't think there's much in that from McLaren. They can't have seen what was going to happen with Sainz, surely.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just prior rules. Like most teams, I would say, maybe not Red Bull, have the kind of car in front gets pit priority. That's sort of only fair to stop the other car undercutting them kind of through team play. And actually some of the, the Hungarian, the 2024 Hungarian Grand Prix, it was sort of, that's exactly what happened. They undercut their own car kind of almost by accident and then had to get into that kerfuffle of like undoing that. I'm kind of with you in that, you say you're miles faster, then make it happen for you. There are certain circumstances when you, as a team, are fighting with other cars around you. You're not fighting for the lead at this moment. You're not first and second, but maybe you're like fifth and sixth, and you're protecting alternate strategies against cars around you. And you're like, okay, Lando's faster than you at the moment. Let him go, and we'll see how the rest of it plays out. That wasn't this scenario. This was essentially saying to Piastri, give up the win, which isn't particularly fair. And you're absolutely right. The strategy they gave Piastri in pitting him when they did, even though it ended up putting him in a lot of back markers, was the superior one. And it just kind of fell apart when those back markers behaved badly. I think there was quite a lot of back markers kind of not behaving themselves as well as they could actually today. It was quite bad out there. And I think it being a short track and a tricky track with it being dusty offline, like people don't want to move out the way as easily. So I think it was in terms of if you name a track where back markers are going to cause you an issue, this is one of the high ones. And we can look at like many teams. I'll get onto it when I get to Ferrari as well. I think every time Ferrari pitted someone, they pitted them out behind another car. They just seem to be cars all over the track today. But yeah, it was unfortunate for Piastri, and I kind of am glad he had his failure from where he was rather than from the lead. I think that would have been more devastating. But actually, I think, yes, the second half of this race of Piastri was just a bit of a nightmare. And I think he's going to go away feeling very sorry for himself. And thank goodness he's got the summer break to kind of rebuild himself, because it's sort of not going that well for him. But deserved win for Lando. I would like to have thought he would have found his way to a win had the pit stops gone normally, and he would have ended up kind of behind Piastri as normal on the road, and things have played out normally. It's impossible to say, but I think he had the pace.
Yeah, it was the quicker of the two, wasn't he, today, I think. A couple of people in chat just pointing out there was a blue flag issue with Sainz, which I'll come to. I've copied Neilesh's comment. I'll read that when we get to Sainz much later in the stream. But just to be clear, Sainz did also still have mirrors and radio and experience. So that's what I would say. And also, very quickly, Alice says, Sean, don't forget to promote the hype button. Now, Alice has been teaching me about the hype button. I don't know what it does, but apparently it's good for a stream. So if you could all smack that hype button, well, not smack it, press it, it's fine. Press the hype button and drop a like and all of that. It'd be great for the channel. So I don't know what the hype button is or what it does really. Alice has tried to explain it. I'm going to smile and nod along, Alice. Yeah, I get it. But yes, not smiling and nodding along. See what I've done there? Oscar Piastri. Not happy in the end. Lost his gearbox, he said over the radio, pulled over to retire on lap 56. Probably on for P2 at best, and probably even at worst, to be honest. That's probably where he was going to be come the end of the race. He wasn't happy over the radio about everything we just talked about with the traffic. He said, nice of you to factor that in, referring to sites costing them the win potentially. But I think that I don't think that was necessarily aimed at the fact that Lando ran long. It won't have helped his mood. I think that was aimed at him being put back into traffic. Why did you not factor this traffic in before pitting me? The problem is, at that stage of the race, both Norris and Piastri, or Piastri and Norris as they were on the road, they had to keep an eye on the likes of Hamilton and Verstappen, didn't they? So they had to make a decision, and they made, I think, was the right strategy, like you say, Stuart, but just unfortunately ended up in the traffic. So I get Piastri's frustration, but I don't, again, think that's aimed at anything necessary that's happened with Norris, and that's not British person defends Norris. I'm not interested in that nonsense, but things just didn't want to go Piastri's way. He got one bit of luck with Norris going wide at turn 2. That was it all race. He was getting no more, basically. So I feel for him, but I can understand why he was frustrated on the radio. I think I'd have said probably a bit more if I was in that position. But so he was quite restrained, I suppose, in the end is what I'm saying. But I feel for him today because he was racing well. Again, I agree with you. I think Norris would have found a way through to win, but I think he still raced very well today, Piastri, up until his gearbox gave in, which was possibly his fault with the curbs. We don't know, but if a driver can't ride the curbs, then you need to look at your power unit in your car because they should be able to.
Absolutely.
Gearbox, sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame a driver for riding the curbs as much as he's legally allowed to, because that's how you go fast, especially on a tight track around here. So, yeah, tricky old day. I think I wasn't following on social media today's happened, so I don't know what any controversies might have erupted. I think some people might have been a bit maybe aggrieved that Lando was calling to please pit me. And then when they pitted Piastri, Lando was like, psych, and just kept going to offset his strategy. But I mean, I think that's the sensible thing to do. I think he needed to offset himself on Piastri to kind of give himself some way around getting past. And as it happened, he didn't have to.
Yeah, nothing more to add. Great race from Norris, and a much needed win, I think, for McLaren. They haven't won since the sprint in Miami, and that's not really a real win. We don't count the sprints in my house. But yeah, no, they needed that. So a big win. And also Norris, then, it means that he's gone into his title defense winning a race. I don't like it when world champions don't win a race in the next season. So there you go. That's a good thing for Lando. Great weekend. Bit of a surprise after Friday, but I tend to agree with Stuart. I think it's a little too early to be talking about Lando Norris in title contention. And they made the point in Sky commentary, to be fair, we didn't think Max Verstappen was going to win the title this time last year, and he was only 2 points off it in the end. So things can happen, but I'm not convinced, especially if Mercedes sort out their reliability. Max Verstappen hates his car, hates the shifts, hates the balance, hates the aero. Absolutely awful weekend. P2.
Yep.
There you go. That's my full Max Verstappen review. Complained about a damping failure. Not sure what that is. I'll let Stuart might know and he might explain that. Then the gear shift issues on lap 11. Did decide to respond to Hamilton's first stop, which was a smart move at the time. And even though Hamilton got through, Verstappen then made a ballsy move up the inside of turn 1 on lap 16, threw it up the inside, bearing in mind that was it last year or the year before they collided at that corner, and Verstappen made it stick. Really nice move, hard but fair, no contact. Did accuse Lewis Hamilton of moving under braking. Now, I'm a Max Verstappen fan, for anybody new, so I'm not being a anti-Verstappen Brit here, but I thought that was a little bit ironic. Max Verstappen complaining about somebody else moving under braking, possibly a bit tongue-in-cheek, but he did say he enjoyed the move. Then didn't pit under the virtual safety car, which I initially thought was a mistake because I felt Antonelli on the fresh tyres, Hamilton on the fresh tyres, he was going to be in trouble, but as it turned out, helped by traffic, helped by other things as well. It was a really smart move in the end by Red Bull, so well played there. 15 seconds off the lead and 3.6 ahead of Antonelli. I think if you'd have offered him that on Friday, you'd have absolutely ripped your hand off for that one. Second place and some big points. Maybe that's it then. Maybe he will stay with Red Bull forever now. He'll be happy. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I think if you'd given him P2 on lap 10, he would have bitten your hand off rather
Probably, yeah.
He's such a funny guy, Verstappen, because you're absolutely right. Like, he seemed to hate every moment of this race. The car wasn't working, and this weekend, downshifts, classic weren't working, tyres weren't underneath him, and, he had some decent pace to him. And to be honest, I was thinking at the end of that, when that virtual safety car came out at the end, of all the people who should have stopped, he was the one. Like, I think Lando could have got away with it. The Ferraris definitely could have got away with it, but he was the one on trying to take soft tyres an unusual distance at the end of the race. Like, if anyone needed some fresh tyres to work with, it was him. But no, kind of bizarre that all worked out well for him. But yeah, sticking on what he got was a brilliant move. I think once again we're speaking to how good a driver Verstappen is to have in your team. Like, despite everything, despite the problems Red Bull seem to be having at the moment, he's salvaged a second place out of it. I haven't heard him speak afterwards because I was busy getting ready for this. So I don't know if he came out of it happy or if he came out of it miserable because there's still 400 things to work on and the car isn't where it's meant to be. But I imagine he's still going to be in that mindset of like things are not right and we got lucky is how I would imagine him speaking. But he drove really well. Honestly, when Hamilton got past him in the first set of pit stops, I thought that was it. Like he was Hamilton was clearly faster, and he just needed to kind of get that undercut, which he nearly didn't do. And I thought that would be it. But so for Verstappen to kind of seize the moment and come back at him, brilliant, honestly.
I know there are probably Hamilton fans and Verstappen fans that don't feel like this, but I adore when those two end up on track together, because you know that, yes, they've come together in the past, yes, there's been collisions, yes, there's been animosity, let's say, but you know you're going to get aggressive, hard racing, and most of the time it'll be fair. Occasionally it goes too far. But they had contact on the opening lap as well, didn't they? A little bit of contact at turn 3. Sort of banging wheels. There wasn't much in it, but you know, they go aggressive and hard, and I love that. So more Verstappen and Hamilton. If we can get Alonso in there as well, even better. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, great drive from Verstappen today. Not much to say. I don't feel like we saw an awful lot of him, funnily enough, once the stop started to happen, because he was on a slightly different strategy to everybody else. What I will say is he did run 32 laps on the soft. Well, his tyre life was 32 laps on the soft. They were a used tyre, so had at least 3 laps on them, so that's at least 29 laps he's done on them. So that's really a really good stint. Not the best stint of the day on the soft tyre, we'll get to that later, but still a really good stint. I think Verstappen won driver of the day, I get that, but my favourite driver of the day today, Stuart, was Isack Hadjar. He was 31 seconds off Hamilton. He was nearly a minute off the lead. He was nowhere, yet he always seemed to be everywhere today. And I love it. He was just everywhere. There's Hadjar. He's like almost photobombing the entire Grand Prix. Particularly on lap 19, I think was absolutely brilliantly played. He held off the McLarens as long as he could. He wasn't sort of moving to block them, but he wasn't making their life easy. And then once they got through, he just backed off on the exit of turn 2 and let his teammates slip through, and then held Hamilton behind until about turn 5, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but little things like that in a Grand Prix add up, and I just thought it was really well played. I'd prefer to see him fighting with those drivers on the same tyres at the front for wins and podiums, but if he can't do that, that's the best thing he can do for Red Bull. So I thought Hadjar was great today, even if when you look at 6th place and a long way off his teammate in the lead, it doesn't look like it, but he was fun. He was there. The inevitable Isack Hadjar at the 2026 Hungarian Grand Prix.
He played the perfect second car role, didn't he, today? And he wasn't like horribly lacking in pace. He was just in the wrong sort of position. He wasn't in the same position that Max Verstappen managed to get himself into. And you're absolutely right. Like the new Minister of Defense for Red Bull, which they've been lacking since I was going to say since Perez left, but sort of since Perez's first season at Red Bull. Yeah, and we've spoken about it time and time again. Red Bull finally have a complete team they can fight with now. I particularly enjoyed when Hamilton had his second stop and then came out. You know, this is crucial laps. We've got to come out. The out lap's crucial. Immediately behind Isack Hadjar, incredible. Yeah, and brought home the points. Not much more you could say about him because he was just sort of among all the other stories. But yeah, I remain impressed with him. And during like practice and qualifying, he was sort of threatening Verstappen a little bit for lap times as well, which again we're seeing much more from him.
This is possibly an obscure reference, so forgive me. But Hadjar today was a little bit like what me and my partner call the ghost boy on Gogglebox. Now, stick with me. Years ago, in the earlier days of Gogglebox, was a family. There was a mum and a dad, a daughter, and then her boyfriend. But he never spoke, and they never spoke to him. So we suspect, or we joke, that they watched Gogglebox back and went, "Who the hell is that? He wasn't there." The ghost, that's what he was like. He was always there, but also not really there. That's what Hadjar was today. So sorry, I'm glad you got that, Stuart. I apologise, obscure reference to anybody in chat. But it was just, he never spoke, did he? Or anything. He just sat there staring at the TV and nobody spoke to him, and it was weird. But yeah, ghost boy, that was Hadjar. Today, Kimi Antonelli. Am I speaking out of turn to say that's a massive result for him today? What did he qualify? He qualified better than that. Then got the penalty, ended up P7 on the grid, and he's recovered to P3. They tried all sorts today. Mercedes stayed out when others pitted to try and run longer, maybe go for a one-stop race. That looked like a no when he pitted on lap 22, but then he seemed to be running long again. So was he trying a one-stopper? I think he wanted to give it a go. The team then pitted him on lap 54, so that didn't happen. They were concerned about tyre life. He didn't really ever look on for a podium. I felt like even when he was trying to go for a one-stopper, he would have been pipped to the post by Hamilton and Verstappen. But then it all just sort of... The virtual safety car came out and it felt like it went against him, but then it all seemed to fall his way with everything else. So I think he could be absolutely delighted with P3 today, given that Mercedes didn't really have the lead winning pace today, or didn't feel like it, not like other weekends. So he's got to be happy with that. Both his title rivals, well, no, Crofty thinks Norris is in it now because, of course. I wonder if he'd say the same if Leclerc had won, but anyway, Norris is back in contention, but most of his title rivals are behind him today, so I think that's a really cracking result for Antonelli, who drove well in, like I say, a car that didn't seem to have the pace. I'm sorry, I'm pausing because I'm looking at his fastest lap time. I mean, he was quicker than both Verstappen and Norris in terms of best lap today, so he had pace, but it didn't feel like that. Do you know what I'm getting at? Not the dominance we maybe expected from Antonelli at another track. I don't know. Words, stuff.
Yeah, it didn't seem like far and above the best car. I feel like he actually did have quite a bit of pace, but he was actually badly positioned, made that mistake in qualifying that cost him a grid penalty. Never fully able to stretch his legs, but there were periods during that race where actually he did have a lot of pace and was trying to sort of make something happen. Definitely benefited a lot from the Ferraris deciding to pit under the virtual safety car, which I think was a bit of an error. And yeah, it just kind of took what came to him. I think this is one of this sort of happens a lot when you get these kind of like S tier races. We've seen it happen with like Verstappen. I think we've seen it happen with Hamilton as well, where somehow things just work out well for you. Like of all the kind of weird things that happen in this race, and penalties, virtual safety cars, squabbling, pit strategies, back markers getting in the way. For Antonelli, he just sort of drove his race and it kind of came to him, I think, is how it felt, even though he was sort of ended up on a weird strategy because he started on one stop and had to turn it into a two stop. But then that kind of, I think, gave Mercedes the confidence to not have to pit for the VSC, which I don't think they did. In fact, I think they pitted just before that, as it happened, by pure luck. And yeah, his teammate not doing so well. I think, yeah. So I think he had some good pace. I do wonder if he'd have been in pole position, he would have been able to convert that into a win, even though maybe Lando Norris would have had more overall pace. I think he might have been able to control this one had he been able to start near the front. But that's the way it worked out today. So yeah, he'll take these points. Definitely just a big jump up from anyone who's anywhere near him in the championship, who is increasingly no one right now. I'd be very surprised if things turn around massively for him in the second half of the season.
Yeah, not for the first time this year. Kimi just missing out with the VSC at pit stop time. That's happened quite a lot these last few races, hasn't it? Twice at, was it Austria, possibly? He missed out on a virtual safety car pit stop. He pitted just before or just after, and he's done the same today. So maybe George Russell got all the safety car luck at Mercedes over the last few years, and now they're getting none. I don't know. But yeah, no, really good race for Antonelli. I think they were right. I think I said that. I think they were right to make the second stop, because I think he would have struggled had Piastri kept going to have kept Oscar behind him. I think he'd have struggled to keep Hamilton and Verstappen behind, so he may have ended up fifth at worst at that point. So pitting to end up sixth and close to Leclerc, it feels like you're not really losing or gaining much in that situation, so it's worth putting the fresh tyres on if they're worried about tyre life. So I think the right call from Mercedes, but there's part of me that likes it when a team just takes that risk and tries to force a one-stopper. But yeah, just very quickly, do you think they're right to make the second stop? Obviously, with hindsight, yes, clearly. But at the time, yeah,
I think he would have struggled. It's kind of hard to say because actually I don't think we saw anyone at a point where their tires were just awful, like really trying to push the tires right to the end of the life. I think everyone had kept tires within a sort of reasonable zone. So it's kind of difficult to know how far he would have been able to take them. When did he pit? He pitted on lap 54, so that would have been another like 17 laps or something, 16 laps. So it's quite a lot to ask from him with those tires. And so but I mean, perfectly timed, to be honest. I guess even more perfectly timed would have been to wait one more lap and catch the virtual safety car at the same time. But still, that worked out great for him.
Yeah. Very quickly, I'm sorry to do this to everyone, but Will's in chat. Hello, Will. FP1 Will says, fun race today. Norris killed it, and I'm saying that, so he must have done well. There you go. Says, hope you both well. Very well, thank you, mate. Hope you are too. We need to get you on a reaction at some point. We haven't done one for about 3 years. I know you're hiding from me, really, but hey to Will. Hope you well, mate, and having a good one, and YouTube is treating you well. Or as well as YouTube ever treats anybody. George Russell. I mean, just pack up and go home, George. What's the point? What's the point, mate? Awful start. Anti-stall kicked in, dropped down to 21st. Did get up to P12 by lap 10, and then by lap 21 he was P7. Looked like he was going to try the one stop. I don't know if he did in the end. I don't think he did he? No, he didn't. So that didn't happen. I think given his start, everybody else's pace, probably the best he could have expected after that first lap, isn't it? P7. Maybe could have got Hadjar, or would have got Hadjar with a couple more laps, but that's not how races work. You can't just add laps on at the end, so kind of irrelevant. But the pace was there to catch Hadjar if we had a bit more time. But yeah, no, I'm as you know, Stuart, I'm not George Russell's biggest fan. But I really feel for him at the minute, because what's the phrase? If he didn't get bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. Is kind of where he's at the moment. What a pants race for him. Slightly slow pit stop as well I've got here. Overshot his box, 3.9 seconds. Yeah, no. Just appalling last few races for George. Had a rough ride, then won Austria, and then has had a rough ride pretty much ever since, hasn't he? So it's looking tougher and tougher, this championship. But yeah, not a great day. I've not got much on George. I'm not going to go wild about him making his way back through the field, because you'd expect that Mercedes to be passing Racing Bulls, Audis, Alpines and Aston Martins, etc. But you still got to get the moves done, I suppose, haven't you? So credit where it's due. Stinky is a good word for his race, yes. Chat.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of did everything that was expected of him. Last of the top 4 teams. If Piastri hadn't retired, he would have been 8th. That's kind of what you expect. But he did make his way through. He's I don't know where he is mentally right now. I think you've got to have a lot of skills in getting your head in the right place at this point, because he's had bad luck. He's had I don't know, do you call it bad luck? He struggled to make this car work for him. I think would be one way of putting it. Whether that's a luck thing or a skill thing, I think it's a mixture of both in terms of just the way things have played out. I think Lando Norris said something earlier, I think on the Friday or the Thursday, that seemed a little bit harsh, but it might have just been when it was all written down. Because George had said he has to change his driving style of like 20 years to make these cars work for him. And Lando said, I change my driving style every single season because every car's different and you have to adapt to that. And if you can't adapt to that, then you shouldn't be in F1. All right, calm down, mate. No need to start sniping at people. But I mean, he's kind of right. You do have to make the car work for you. And I think a lot of drivers have struggled in certain seasons when a particular style of car hasn't worked for them. I mean, we've seen it with Lewis Hamilton the last few years as well. But this is the kind of car we're going to have for the next few years. So he is going to have to figure out how to make it work for him, because his teammate certainly is. And the Ferrari drivers certainly are. And I mean, Verstappen isn't, and yet somehow seems to be having a stronger season than him in terms of like as a driver. So yeah, I would, yeah, he's got to get himself into some kind of good place soon.
Who needs enemies when you've got friends like Lando Norris, eh, George? Wow. I'm sure it was a partially tongue-in-cheek. No, but he's right. He is right. You've got to be able to adapt. If you want to win world championships, you've got to adapt to the cars that you give him. But even Max Verstappen's struggling, but he's still getting good results. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the bad luck thing. He had a couple of safety cars early in the season that went against him, but then he often had safety cars in the past that went for him. So that might just be karma. Coming back to get him, I don't know, but I think there's an element of bad luck. I think there was a software issue with the car, which is why he was having the deployment issues at some tracks, but he also just doesn't seem to be able to drive so I think there's an element of bad luck, but I also think there's an element of driver not delivering in these cars as well. I don't think, obviously social media and parts of the media will be desperate to say it's all George or it's all this or it's all that. I think it's a mixture of the two. And there's a lot of talk about his driving style as well, maybe being a factor in that. And I don't know. But his teammate is killing it in the same car. Yeah. So is it an era of cars that suit Antonelli more than Russell in the same way that the last Mercedes era or the last era suited Russell more than Hamilton at Mercedes? Or seemed to? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think it's all down to car issues, and I don't think it's all down to the driver, but it's somewhere in the middle, which sounds like fence sitting, but I think it'd be difficult for me to say this is all on George. Equally, I can't sit here and say the car's terrible because, again, look at what his teammate's doing. So, but yeah, the safety car's a bad look at the start of the season, but I'm not sure. I don't know where he's at. He always looks really flat, but I think I would be as well, to be fair, in that situation. And I hope that he can go away this summer, bit of a reset, come back, and even if he doesn't fight for the title, just get to grips with the car and start being a threat and be closer to his teammate. And it's still staggering to me, Stuart, that we go back to pre-season, and we were probably saying the same in testing, I can't remember, but everyone felt if that Mercedes was dominant, Russell would romp away with this title, and he's not at all. So it's tough to read, but I don't know where he goes from here, but it sounds like he's staying at Mercedes. He's been clear he's staying. Toto has sort of hinted it, maybe not as confidently as George, but he sounds like he's staying, so he's got some time to get to grips with it. But maybe the tweaks to the aero that are coming next year will help him, maybe. But at the minute, he's not where he needs to be, and that's the most obvious statement I think I've made in the near decade. In fact, actually, by the way, 9 years today since I started the other one. So 9 years today since I started on YouTube, to this very day. So there you go. Anyway, as an
Happy
aside,
anniversary.
Yeah, celebrate while George suffers. There you go. Yeah, did my ramblings make any sense there, Stuart, or shall I just shut up and move on?
No. Yeah, they make a lot of sense. It's a tricky thing for him. I wonder where your head has to be. I don't want to go as far as saying George Russell is entitled, because that's a very particular mindset. But it felt like when we were watching him in like Formula One, he did his work at Williams longer than he wanted to. It felt like his entire thing was building up to being a race-winning driver for Mercedes. That seemed to be his entire trajectory, and that, you know, that's where he saw himself. And he got promoted to Mercedes. He just happened to get promoted to Mercedes at a time when Mercedes became crap. And then he worked, you know, he had to slog through the bad Mercedes years. The Mercedes have finally delivered him a title-winning car, and a teenager in the other seat is beating him. And it just, I don't know, in terms of like, I imagine he spent all this time being like, as soon as the car becomes good, then it'll come to me. And this is what I've been working towards my whole career. And then having that sort of snatched away from you must force you to make some kind of reset in your mind. About what's happening with your career and how you can save it. Now, I maybe he can do what Rosberg did in 2015 and then just start some kind of run at the end of the season and just build on that momentum going into the next season and turn something like that around. But I don't know. He's clearly got to change where he is mentally, because I think he came from a position of this is my destiny. That's always how I felt it. It's like, this is my destiny, and now it's sort of not happening.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing with next year, of course, is that, I mean, look how the field has converged already this season. It's going to be even closer next year, so it's going to be even tougher for him. But yeah, I tend to agree. I think if you put yourself as a neutral, we need George up there being part of all this and mixing it with everybody, because it makes for better races. But yeah, back to the original point. I think 7th is about all he could have hoped for after that first lap. To be honest, based on his pace all weekend, 6th or 7th is probably where he would have ended up anyway if everything went the way it did. So maybe I'm being harsh there, I don't know. Let's come to you in chat then for the top 3 teams super quickly, and then we'll move on to... Oh, dear. Let's just chat. No, we'll stop the run through there. Let's not go any further. It's fine. I did see a really good point, actually, from Hurricane. Says, I think Bono is a massive advantage for Kimi over George. George's engineer sounds pretty awful. I didn't read the last bit. But I think the Bono point, having that experience, he's worked with Lewis Hamilton, having him on Antonelli's side is really helping Kimi. So I think that's a very good point. I have a feeling Interlagos will be the location for Kimi's crowning moment, says CPB. Who knows what the final race will be? Could be Imola in December. Anything can happen.
Wait for it.
To be honest, it's about time, says Sticklebrick. I've said since before Norris became champion, he needs to add a ruthless streak if he wanted to be a champion. This is on Norris's comments, so it's nice to see him grow a pair and say it like he sees it. There you go. I do wonder if this Duckrup makes a great point. I said this in pre-season. I know I did at least 32 times. I had to fill 8 hours a day. I do wonder if the rookies have an easier time because they have less to learn or less to unlearn. Lindblad, for example, has no knowledge of last year's car, really. So is he doing so well this year because he's not had to adapt? He's just hopped in that car. That is what it is. F2 car to F1 different, but I think that's a good point. Someone like Hamilton has a lot of muscle memory from the last few years, so maybe it takes him a bit longer, although he's doing well now. So I think it's a very fair point. I do. We'll come to the rest of the field later. Neelish says 40 seconds down on Kimi. I think only about half of that was from making his way through the midfield at the start. That's on George Russell. We need George to do the dance in front of Jamie Chadwick and Naomi Schiff. I have no idea what the dance is. Sure.
No.
But tell us more, CPV. I'm intrigued. One word for Russell's race, stinky, says Kerim. Yep. Let's have a look. See if there's anything that we haven't covered. But I think we've pretty much... I usually do a bit more of a chat, but that took us a bit longer than I thought it was going to take, which is... Having said that, we'll do Ferrari, and then I've got sod all for anybody else, really, so that won't take long. Ghost Boy on the goggle box is one of the most English sentences I've ever heard, says Zach. Wait till we start talking about Doctor Who and digestive biscuits. There you go. And cups of tea. Starting on softs could have been genius if there was an early safety car, says Hurricane. Yeah, I did think that before the race. I thought if you get an early safety car, that's a really smart move. But I think Ferrari, we'll get to in a minute, penned themselves in a corner by using the mediums in Q1 yesterday. They only had new hards and old softs available. So, I think Lewis had a fresh set at the start, didn't he? And one more. Just Al don't know what says, I am sorry, but McLaren disappointed me on Oscar's side. I don't know about Leclerc's therapist, but Oscar is in a really bad mood. He really needs some support right now. It doesn't help as well when the media are constantly going, he's going to get sacked, and then McLaren and Mark Webber are going, what are you on about? Shut up. Oscar Piastri missed the opening race of the season, has had a gearbox issue today, and I still think he's not had a bad season. It's not been as good as last year, but I don't think he's as bad as certain people are making out, I suppose. And George can be a champion, but will never be one in Mercedes. Felt like that since 2023, says Moray. Any more? I'll give Red Raven one. I am not entirely sure if that is how Russell would feel, or that's what we are seeing looking at him. That being said, some need to lose a title fight to be properly ready to win one. Ooh,
nice.
There you go. Something to learn from, I suppose. We'll say 50 minutes. I'm just making notes for timestamps because it could be a nightmare later on the way that I was going to say we, but I waffle. There you go. Ferrari. Sure. Let's do this. Favourites coming into the weekend. I put everything behind him in predictions. Friday looked incredible. Saturday came along. It all started to fall apart. I got kicked in the nuts. And then today, 4th and 5th. I mean, I would never have believed at the start of this weekend that Hamilton in 5th place, the lowest finishing after the penalty of the Ferraris would be 25 seconds off the lead. I really didn't. But Leclerc got P4, which is something, gaining a place at the end there. Seemed happier in the second stint than Hamilton is what I've got. Was investigated for yellow flag infringement, but no further action. Considering he finished 4th and was actually only 5.1 behind Antonelli, I still felt like Leclerc was a little bit in no man's land today. We didn't see as much of him as we did others. Lewis Hamilton, that minor contact on lap 1 at turn 3 with Verstappen, that was fine. Tyre to tyre, no issue at all. Came out behind Lindblad on lap 14, didn't he, on his pit stop, and then overtook him around the outside of turn 5. I know that's fresh tyres and faster car, but it's still quite a ballsy move around there. An important move at the time. Then it looked like he'd had no pace, and then he was told to stop tyre saving and close up to Verstappen, but then pitted immediately, so not sure. Fell back behind Ghost Boy, got past him at the start of the next lap, and then got a cheap stop under the virtual safety car for the fresh soft tyres, which, for all the world, looked like he was going to use to get past Antonelli, but Antonelli was still delivering good pace on a hard tyre, and Lewis Hamilton wasn't able to get by in the end. A couple of attempts as they got stuck in traffic which kind of cost both of them a shot at Verstappen, but as it turned out, he then got a pit lane speeding penalty, 5 seconds for during that virtual safety car stop. So the virtual safety car stop was the right move, but somehow also the wrong move, which is so typically Ferrari, isn't it? But yeah, I did. There's one thing I will say. I did take not issue, because I don't think it was a completely serious comment, but he said on the radio, handing out penalties like crazy, to which I wrote, well, don't speed in the pit lane then and you won't get a penalty, right? This wasn't some sort of overtake that didn't come off, or a track limits thing, or forcing somebody off track. This was, you sped in the pit lane, you're going to get a penalty. So I don't think it was a serious comment. I think it was a bit sort of, my God, another one. But yeah, you just don't speed in the pit lane. And then fell behind Leclerc over the line, having crossed the line in 4th place, and not far behind Antonelli. But yeah, I mean, 4th and 5th isn't a bad result, Stuart, is it? It's just when you come into the weekend as the favourites and you dominate Friday and Sean starts getting excited, it's very disappointing.
I think it is a bad result, because I think the expectations were so high, and I don't think their expectations were set optimistically. I think they could have had a win, a 1-2, if things had gone better for them. I think they made some bad decisions. I think maybe they made some mistakes along the way throughout the weekend. Probably should have had pole position. Didn't make that second run in Q3 work out well for them, and obviously made that error in blocking Piastri. Some kind of ill-timed pit stops. I say ill-timed. It's very hard. Nothing's going to work out perfectly for you, or it's very hard to make things work perfectly for you in terms of when you pit, in terms of giving yourself an advantage to people you're competing with and giving yourself space on track. And it just has happened every time Ferrari stopped. They came out right behind someone. And for Hamilton, one of the times was a Racing Bull and the other time was a Red Bull. So very, very unfortunate for them, or badly timed, who can say. Speeding in the pit lane, an error. I mean, the one thing they did manage to do was to spot that they'd accidentally put themselves in the wrong order with Antonelli, with that safety car line thing. Very, very marginal, but they got on it quickly and gave the position back. So that could have been another penalty if they hadn't got on that quickly. And, you know, the Ferrari aren't always the quickest people to react to stuff. So, yeah, it does feel like the weekend that got away, really. They had a decent amount of pace, but because it's Hungary, they were badly positioned and couldn't really act on it. I don't know if they would have been able to catch Norris under better circumstances, or even if they'd been able to hold off Norris had they had pole position. I think probably they would have. But yeah, this should have been a weekend where they made up some of the deficit they had to the cars and teams ahead of them, and it just didn't work out that way. I think they're going to walk away disappointed. In the same way that actually in the end of qualifying, we saw Hamilton, you know, within a fraction of pole position, and then just looked absolutely downtrodden immediately because he knew he'd made a mistake. He was thinking all things that had gone wrong already. That's, yeah, kind of where they are. I think they should be happy that they've got good race winning pace and can win races when things are suited to them. But yeah, this should have been one of those races.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I suppose I agree in the context of the weekend and the expectation. But I think the reason I'd say 4th and 5th isn't a bad result is because in the context of the championship, I think Ferrari have got a real shot at the constructors, and they've still banked some big points compared to. They've closed the gap on Mercedes a little bit. So even though things sort of didn't go the way they wanted to in the race, they've still made a net gain on Mercedes, which I think, yeah, it could have been so much more, but I still think that's a good result in the context of the championship. But I agree with you that in the context of the weekend, it's a disaster, really. There were, and someone said it in chat, where are you? I'm going to try and find you very quickly. Blackhawk, so we had some interesting issues with the track map today. So I don't know if the teams and comms were having the same problem, which may mitigate some of that. Maybe I'm a Ferrari fan desperately reaching for excuses. I don't know. But maybe that was a factor in some of the decisions they made. I can't be sure on that. But I think you're right. Qualifying so close to pole, impedes Piastri, which, by the way, was an absolute slam dunk. It wasn't even... I can't imagine that conversation was very long with the stewards, to be honest. So that then puts him back 3 places. That compromises him. Like you say, puts him out of position on a track that's hard to overtake on. So, yeah, it's just frustrating because it could have been so much more. And Zandvoort next week can't overtake either. So they need to get it right in quali. But, my God, that's going to be tough. And then who knows what can happen in Madrid? Nobody. But, yeah, I don't know. It just disappointing for Ferrari. But I tend to agree with what you in chat are saying, that it was pretty bad for the weekend. But again, championship, they've made a gain. I'm gonna be honest, I said it to chat, I'll say it to you, Stuart. Imola, end of the season, Antonelli winning the drivers' championship, Ferrari winning the constructors, would be incredible. In Italy, oh, could you imagine the scene? So let's do it. Why not? I did forget to say, if you haven't already, please do leave a like on the stream and subscribe if you are new. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in. There'll be a few bits, one a week over the summer break, and then I'm full time from Zandvoort onwards. Definitely got some shifts to do to earn some pennies first, and then my summer job, because I'm a student, clearly, will be over and I'll be back to full time. So yeah, just to say thank you to everyone for your support so far this season, and get subbing and liking and hyping and stuff. Yeah, boo Ferrari. I'm not talking to you anymore. Liam Lawson, P8, Arvid Lindblad, P9. I assume they were the white cars we saw briefly on the feed today, Stuart, because I don't recall seeing much of them all season, and apparently they were there this weekend, so that was nice to see. Obviously some sort of new team, but lap 62, we got a couple of laps watching Lindblad, Lawson and Hulkenberg. And then my favourite thing is when the actual overtakes happened, we weren't watching. Lap 62, battling Lindblad and Lawson, very, very racy. We again, we'll go back to TV direction. Spa, we missed that side-by-side in Eau Rouge and Radion between the two racing bulls. That was something that happened. We've seen replays of since that was incredible. And the battle they had, but they were battling again today. Great result for Lawson. Lindblad might be disappointed to drop down to 10th place in the end, but it is still points on the board for a team that are doing very well. So very, very happy for them. But yeah, no, it was nice. I guess my review of their races, it was nice to see them for a lap, honestly.
I mean, at least we did get to see them. I mean, those two racing bulls have been fighting each other fiercely all season, and I definitely feel we need to see more of them. We definitely saw more of them earlier on in the season, but I mean, that missing out on them last week was shocking, honestly. So at least we got to see a little bit of them. And I think we should have followed them for longer, just generally, because they were very close, especially once the Audi started getting involved. Not a lot was happening at the front, let's be honest. Things were pretty static. Obviously, there was a larger story happening in terms of strategy, but actually in terms of on-track action, race direction needs to... We've spoken about this a little bit, how race direction sometimes relies on the little picture-in-picture box that they've, the magical technology we've finally got in the last couple of years, to show things happening lower in the field without having to show them, so we can keep looking at Kimi Antonelli winning things. Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the whole season, the racing bulls are one of the most interesting pairings, actually, and are doing, in terms of the fight between themselves, and just moving the whole team forward. I think they're doing really great at the moment. They managed to elevate themselves throughout the race. And I just want to see more of them. There's going to be a couple of instances of people I want to see more of. I said about 50 laps into the race, I turned to my friend and said, well, I can't wait till I'm asked about how Alpine did this race.
Oh, Dan was relying on you for that. Lindblad, worth noting, did make a one-stopper work, did 49 laps on the hard tyre in his final stint, having done 20 laps on the opening medium tyre. So that's really good racing. Maybe that kind of explains maybe why Lawson and Hulkenberg were right behind him and they were battling so hard, because Lindblad was struggling on the tyres a bit compared to the others. Lawson's tyres are 27 laps old, Hulkenberg's 33, so although still very old soft tyres, still newer than a set of 49 lap hard tyres. So credit to Lindblad there to get the point with that one. Hulkenberg P9, his first points of the season, unbelievably. 2 points, but it's still 2 points. And is that 10 in the last 2 races for Audi? Or 3 races? It's something like that, isn't it? So really good last few rounds for Audi. Hulkenberg again involved in that fight, managed to get through. Lindblad sort of almost followed Lawson through, I think, is how I read that watching the driver tracker. So that's what's happened there. Bortoletto, 29 laps on his first soft tyre stint, so well done for that one. I will say, and I don't know, Stuart, if you've still got the feed up there with the FIA announcements, but I don't know if Bortoletto was ever looked at for ignoring blue flags, because in my opinion I think he deserved a penalty for holding Kimi up in the way he did on lap 64. There were a couple of opportunities to get out of the way and he didn't. He just sat there and almost allowed Lewis to stick one up the inside of him, and that would have been frustrating to see. And I don't understand where the radio call was, so whether this is the blue flag panels playing up that people have talked about, but I feel like he should have been looked at for that, unless he didn't go past 3 panels, in which case obviously not. But it felt excessive in that moment, to me.
No investigations noted, so got away with that one.
Yeah, but this will be one that'll come for Sainz as well. Where's the radio call? Maybe there is one. Maybe they say get out of the way or whatever. But the team need to be alert to that as well. I know it was tricky through that middle sector to let him go, but there was a moment on the run to the chicane he could let him go, and then let Hamilton go after it or whatever, or both. We saw others do it. So I just think Bortoletto either didn't know they were there, in which case the mirrors need to be looked at, but then we know these mirrors are cack anyway, or he was just so focused on what was going on ahead, he just needed to keep closing that gap to the Racing Bulls, because he was only a second off Lindblad in the end, so he was involved in that fight. So I don't know, but it's just one of those frustrations from the race. I'm not having a go at Bortoletto, but you're a lap down, blue flags, get out of the way, first opportunity, and he didn't. So I'm surprised that wasn't even noted, to be honest. But they were dealing with other big blue flag issues, I suppose. But sorry, Stuart. Summary of that: great day for Audi again. A couple of points. There you go.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's been 10 points in the last 3 races, 2 8ths and a 9th since Britain. So they're on the ascendancy as other teams are sort of on their way down with their funny little crackly engines. Obviously we're going to expect more things from them going forwards, but as long as they can keep having a solid season like this, this was a good showing for them. For most of the season so far, we sort of haven't seen this kind of pace from them, so I'm going to be interested to see if they can keep this up and get is that first points for Hulkenberg? I think it is, isn't it?
Yes, this season, first points this year.
Yeah, because they were talking about it throughout the rest of the weekend about how he hadn't got any points yet. Good, I'm glad, because I like it when Hulkenberg's happy.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Sorry, Pascal. Sorry, Audi fans and Racing Bulls fans, but I can only go off what we saw and what notes we've got, and that's what we had. So that's your point scorers. I think, yes, that's everything, isn't it? So now we go on to the rest of the field. I've got a few notes, but I don't think it'll take too long. We'll move on to the non-point scorers then, starting with Alpine. Moving on to Aston Martin. I have nothing on Alpine. I've got Gasly started 12th, Colapinto 13th. Gasly finished 12th, Colapinto finished 15th. So that's it. I don't even remember seeing them. They must have been there somewhere because they're on the timing tower, but I don't really remember seeing them. I will say, by the way, sorry, as an aside, on my live timing, I've got Alpine set up as pink, so they stand out better than the main one. So if F1 are listening, they have pink on their car, make their things pink. It makes more sense. Anyway.
I also have them down as pink as well. It sort of makes no sense to have like a fifth blue team, especially when Mercedes is teal.
Yeah.
On all of the graphics. Like, it's not like Mercedes is a teal car. It's just an accent color. And why Audi is red is beyond me. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But it just drives me crazy. I have recolored all of my live timing, like you. Yeah, my notes are exactly the same. I didn't see them at all. I have no idea what they were up to. They didn't have much of an impact on the points. They kind of just... they sandwiched the Aston Martins, and at least the Aston Martins I have things to say about in a holistic sense.
Yeah, I've got notes for pretty much everybody else, but I mean, I'm just wondering if there's not even a press release from Alpine that I can see yet, so maybe they're still asleep as well. I don't know, but yeah, a quiet day, but no points, but also no disasters, I suppose, is your review there. We'll just roll on to Aston Martin. I'm not going to try and fill that with anything else. Fernando Alonso. Stroll beat Alonso. How did I miss that? Sorry. Stroll 13th, Alonso 14th. The big talking point yesterday, really, for me, after penalties and whatnot, Fernando Alonso in Q2. I was so pleased to see that. And there was a moment, he put a lap in late on that put him 10th, and I went, oh, no way. And then it all kind of shaked out as the track evolved, but so happy to see an Aston Martin into Q2, and it's Fernando Alonso. Was noted for an early incident with Ollie Bearman, forced him off track apparently, but no further investigation. Managed to do an opening stint of 33 laps on the soft tyre. Well, the tyres are 33 laps on them. He pitted on lap 36 in the end, but a fantastic... that's not adding up, sure. I think you got that wrong way around. It doesn't matter. But still a great opening stint. There was one moment which I don't really put on Fernando Alonso. It was 34 laps, by the way. I don't know if it was the contact, because he went to let Hamilton through as Hamilton lapped him. But there seemed to be, I think it was Alonso, there seemed to be a bit of contact as Hamilton came across and moved towards him. So I don't know if there was contact there. That was probably the most dramatic moment we saw. But I think, to be honest, Stuart, it's just nice to not have Aston Martin last in this run-through. Much better weekend, 16 updates. Honda engine updates come for Zandvoort. The only way is up from here.
Honestly, like, I'm made up for them. I mean, 13th, 14th, sure, no points, obviously, but massive step up for them. Like, must be really satisfying that the upgrades did something. And we don't know, obviously, if all the upgrades correlate necessarily to how they imagine them in the in the simulation and stuff. So we still got all that to come, but they've jumped up into the midfield proper rather than they were so far behind. They were like 2 seconds behind Cadillac, which was obscene, and now they're just in amongst it. Not necessarily points in amongst it, but you have a bit of a high attrition race, and they're now in that kind of position that we talk about sometimes, where if you're thereabouts, you might luck into some points through reliability. So yeah, that's much better. I think I'm sort of looking at the lap chart, but I'm just trying to, maybe Stroll managed to jump Alonso because he pitted under the VSC, I think, which was just slightly after Alonso pitted. Might need someone to double check that, but I think that might have been what happened.
Could be, yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I think they should leave this place pretty happy. Finally, something to be positive about. They waited long enough to get all these parts on the car. They've said themselves they're not going to make massive leaps forward this season, but if they can just make gains and understand the car and use this to make themselves a better 2027 car, then I think they'll consider the second half of this season a success, to be honest. So I'm expecting more of this going forward.
Yeah, Nick says that it was Alonso pitted on the virtual safety car, so
yeah,
not sure. Yeah, but either way, Stroll ahead of him. But I think another thing that, I don't know if you mentioned it there, Stuart, but a positive as well, 10.3 for Stroll behind Gasly. How far were Aston behind Alpine 3 weeks ago or whatever? I mean, that's they say they're not going to make any huge leaps forward. That's a massive leap forward compared to where they were. And I know that a team with the money they've invested and the people they have on board should be doing better than this anyway. But you've got to be positive about where they were versus where they are now. So I'm not going to change that. Aston, really strong weekend. Great to see everything working. I think they've got a test coming up in the next few days where they might run the engine. So we'll see what noise we hear from that. Hopefully not bang. It is Honda, you never quite know, do you? But yeah, no, I'm really happy to see Aston up there. And I think John said in chat, possibly, yeah, seeing all the pit crew and the engineers nodding and smiling, and just they look happier, and that's only going to be a good thing going forward. So whether 14th place today is enough to make Fernando sit down in the summer and say yes, that's enough, we'll find out. I think he said he'll delay his decision anyway, but we'll see. But, you know, it's a step in the right direction, a big step in the right direction, and I'm really happy for them. So I don't think there's anything else to say. Decent pace. They're in that midfield. Lower end, but they're there. Yeah, good stuff from Aston Martin. It's nice to talk about them as well. Haas, on that note, Haas, Ocon, not got a thing. Bearman had a spin at turn 2, but managed to continue. 5-second penalty for ignoring blue flags. That's it. Again, don't recall, apart from Bearman's spin, seeing much of them. So maybe that's a good thing in a way. But I think, okay, Ocon, better weekend than last time. Beat his teammate today. Beat him in qualifying. Qualifying last time out was really poor. So a good weekend for Ocon on the track he won at, of course, a few years ago. But yeah, that's all I've got for Haas, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I don't have anything else really apart from what you said. And yeah, I'm glad to see Ocon do a little bit better, but I think he's still in a risky seat position compared to probably most other drivers. I think the only other thing I had on Haas was sort of Ocon got in the way of Leclerc for a little bit. Well, not in the way, but Leclerc came out just behind Ocon and Hadjar when he pitted. So yeah, that was basically it. That's when I saw Ocon.
Yeah. I think of all the drivers on the grid, he's the most precarious, isn't he? I think in the driver market at the minute. Others could move that will trigger things, but I think in terms of a sacking, let's say, to be dramatic, I think he's probably the one at most risk. There is one driver I think should be at risk, but won't be. Have a guess. But yeah, I think I agree with that. Williams, Albon 17th. I've got a single note on Albon. Carlos Sainz, we talked about him. He finished 18th. I put here, I love how I write things in the race. Potentially naughty from Sainz, shoving the second place driver going for the win off the road when it was a lap down. Potentially naughty. Weird. He was battling an Aston in his defence. I'll do this first. He was battling an Aston, so he was preoccupied with that. Maybe the radio didn't tell him, or the team didn't tell him there was somebody there. Neelish said Sainz incident slightly mitigated by the blue flag light panels malfunctioning, so that could be an issue. But still, although we now know he had his gearbox issue, so retired, and Norris maybe would have had the pace, but would have had to make the move on track, that could have cost Piastri the win. It was investigated. He got a 5-second time penalty. I don't think I can argue with that at all. I don't think many will. But even without the blue flag light panel, even with an Aston Martin in front of him, I think somebody of Sainz's experience should be more aware of those things. Coming down the start-finish straight, he must have seen a papaya car in his mirrors, surely. So he must have known there was one approaching. So if that's a rookie, maybe you're a bit more lenient, but I think for Sainz, he should know better there. But again, to sort of defend him, if the blue flags aren't working properly and the team haven't told him, what more can he do other than stare in his mirrors as he's trying around a corner? I don't know. But I don't know how you feel, Stuart. I just think it was 100% a penalty. I try to think of ways that Sainz might have had an issue, but it's just a penalty, isn't it, all day long?
Yeah, it's not like the McLarens are a colour that blends into the background or anything, is it? And it's also not like Piastri suddenly appeared in turn 2, or Hamilton, as it seemed to be the only corner that a lot of the commentators remembered.
Yes.
I do like, maybe we'll get to this later, I do enjoy they've named all the corners. Yeah, I mean, there's no real excuses. He should have seen him coming for like a few corners by that point. And got out of the way. I know he was in his own battle and all that stuff, but it was just, it wasn't really on. And he just have your wits about you. I mean, on the blue flag thing, I mean, maybe the blue lights weren't working. I'm not sure we've heard anything official on what was happening with that. But, marshals still have flags.
Yeah.
And I don't know if race control could have been like, look, we need to default to flags for these blue flags, I guess, to make sure they're visible if we've got problems. Like, there are ways around, and there are team radio and all kinds of things. People have eyes. So... including Sainz. So not really an excuse for what he did. And again, it is worse. I know there's a lot of talk about not talking about the sort of, what do you call it, the consequences of things or like wider circumstances, but he did essentially barge someone out of the lead of the race through his actions.
So to answer some of our questions, I found the decision document. I couldn't find it at the start of the stream. I was probably not looking very well, but the stewards determined that the driver of car 55, that's Sainz, was wholly responsible for the collision with car 81. Shocking. The driver of car 55 had been informed by the team that blue flags were being shown due to the approach of Piastri. As Piastri attempted to overtake, contact occurred between Sainz and Piastri. While the standard penalty for causing a collision is 10 seconds, the stewards identified a mitigating factor. At the point of the incident, the position of Sainz relative to the circuit and the other cars meant that Piastri was not visible to the driver of Sainz prior to the attempted overtake, although the driver had been informed that Piastri was approaching. The stewards accepted that the limited visibility reduced the degree of culpability. So he knew he was there, but because he couldn't see him, it doesn't matter. They've got some great explanations for their mitigating stuff here. There's nothing on the blue light flat panels as far as I can see in this. Interestingly, 5-second time penalty for causing a collision, but not ignoring blue flags, which is, I didn't realise. Sorry, I wrote it as an ignoring blue flags penalty, but there you go. So they feel the 5 seconds was appropriate rather than 10. I don't know. They tie themselves up in knots on these, don't they, sometimes?
Feels like he got off lightly there, I think. And there's been a lot of mitigating circumstances and decision documents this weekend, which is interesting. I'm sorry, I say interesting. It sounds like I'm like very skeptical. I do find it interesting. And are we going to see more of this? Are we going to see more of stewards trying to be less black and white and try and take in as much information as possible? But how much can you do that without speaking to the drivers and so on? Like it's interesting. They are mitigating things as they see them. Maybe it's just coincidence. It happened a lot this weekend, but I don't know. We'll see if this continues to play out. But I think he got off lightly, to be honest.
I don't mind mitigating circumstances. But when those, let's say, mitigating circumstances include Oscar Piastri shouldn't have been trying an overtake on the outside, or Carlos Sainz was told the car was there but couldn't see it, that's not, to me, a mitigating factor. If Carlos Sainz had not been told that Piastri was there and couldn't see him, fair enough. But I just, to me, I find... At the point of the incident, the position of car 55 relative to the circuit and the other cars meant that car 81 was not visible to Sainz prior to the attempted overtake, but they've already said the driver of car 55 had been informed by the team that blue flags had been shown due to the approach of car 81. So I just think that's a little bit contradictory, but stewards will steward, I suppose. Sure. Again, as it turns out, gearbox failure for Piastri. It didn't matter in terms of the race result, but it could have done, and that's the issue. Did you have anything on Albon, by the way, Stuart, as we sit here moaning at Carlos Sainz and his horrific driving? Oh, terrible.
No, nothing on Albon. No.
Poor
again, fairly invisible. Ghost gogglebox teenager.
And last, but by no means least, well, I suppose a bit least today, Cadillac. Bottas, lap 15, brace yourself for a shock. Brakes on fire, left front had to retire. They've got to sort that out, and that's such an obvious statement, but my God. And then Perez, a bit more eventful, noted for starting procedure infringement again. That was to be investigated after the race, not seen anything yet. Lap 51, slowed on track, something flapping on suspension, he said over the radio. Managed to get it back to the pits and retired. Skyward desperate for him to pull over and retire to trigger a safety car. Left front let go at turn 4 and 5. Brundle did say it could have been a track rod issue. So Cadillac, more issues with that. I suppose the curbs can break suspensions, as we saw with Kimi's, not his suspension, but the issue he had in Silverstone where he got damage over the serrated curb. So it can happen. But the brake stuff is just... you want to cut them slack because they're a new team, but we're 11 races into the season now, so that's an issue that feels like it should have been resolved. But then I'm an F1 fan sat in my office talking about it. I'm not an engineer, so who knows? But yeah, disappointed for Caddy. And I think what's even worse for them now is they are back to being, or they are now, the rock bottom team, aren't they? Although not that far off Williams the way they seem to be going. But yeah, not great for Caddy, but yeah. Exciting.
I mean, I think they were fortunate to not be the rock bottom team for the first half of the season, to be honest. They got away with that. I think we expected them to be last. Definitely a year of learning and growing and just developing and stuff like that. I do agree that I think overheating brakes, and I say this with a lot of layman opinion rather than an engineering opinion. Overheating brakes seems like a fairly simple one that maybe they should have got ahead of. It's not like it's like 3 layers deep into the aerodynamics that's not working, or like a really technical engine issue or something, something really complicated. It's like the brakes sit on the tires and you put brake ducts on and you call the brakes, and the brakes are given to you by 2 suppliers. It's like they should have this sorted out by now. But yeah, tough day for them. Bottas got quite lucky, I guess, that he didn't break down in the pit lane entrance. He managed to make it just about to the end of the pit lane, because he could have caused a bit of pandemonium, actually. I don't think he stopped around the time when everyone was planning on making pit stops, but again, he could have shut down the pit lane for a couple of laps if he hadn't have managed to freewheel his way to the end there. So got away with that. And on Perez, I do agree. He seemed to be able to safely get his way back to the pit lane, so he should have done. That worked out fine. As Brundle said, there weren't things flying off his car. He wasn't spraying oil everywhere. It all seemed fairly in hand. So yeah, I'm glad he made his way back to the pits rather than stopping the race.
Yeah. I would say, the only thing I would say is I think, if I recall, I didn't write it down, but I think Piastri was going to pit. He was called in, but then Bottas pitted and was slow, so they left him out for a lap. Rather than getting caught behind it. That I may be wrong, chat, let me know, but I think that happened, or I imagined it, which is also very possible.
Says you didn't imagine it.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Nick. I mean, the only solution I can think of for Cadillac's brakes is don't brake. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's an option, is it? Throttle pedal works both ways, as Martin Brundle would say. So, just don't use your brakes. As I don't think Bottas did in the end. He was using the wall, wasn't he, on the pit entry to slow down. He's having to run along the wall to try to slow the car down. So, Cadillac needs to get on top of that. But no, nothing new there. That's becoming a regular issue, isn't it? But I'll come to chat actually first. I missed you out earlier, so read a couple of chats, then we'll do driver of the day, and by a couple I mean a few, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A, because I think we need to talk about Sepang, don't we? We've got to talk about Sepang because we're all very excited for that. Hurricanes is getting blue flagged and crashing into someone lapping you should result in penalty points on the licence, really. The penalty wouldn't really have changed things for the guy who finished P18. Yeah, true. Sights angle was so wide he could see Piastri by looking left, I think, says Snakey. Yeah, it was very wide, wasn't he? I need Kimi to go to smash the second half of the season. I love watching greatness at work, says KSGM327. Yes and no. I'd love to... So I was one of the few, and I obviously helped by the fact I was a Verstappen fan, and Schumacher fan, but I love watching seasons of domination because I think there's a lot in that to admire and respect. So I'd love Kimi to go and run away with it and dominate, but also I'm kind of enjoying what we've got now. So if we could keep it like this for the rest of the season, I was also fine with that one. A few people talking about Spring Corner being named Spring Corner. As someone pointed out to me yesterday, Stuart, I shouldn't laugh. that is where Barrichello lost his spring in 2009 and took out Felipe Massa. I don't think the corner's named after that, but if it is, even if it isn't, that's still ouch. Yeah, cheeky.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely named after a water spring, just to be clear. But maybe they didn't think that one quite all the way through.
John T on the break says the issue is that once on fire, it's kind of a shot in the dark as to see what will happen. Same with repeated suspension collapsing. Imagine that happens in Baku. Yes, that's a good point. Actually, that's not too far away, is it either? But yes, no, it's a spring, as in a water spring. My favourite corner names, by the way, without doubt, are Buddha and Pest. I mean, come on. They need an award for that. It's that good.
I love it. I unironically love it. I think it's great. Are you not a fan of driving centre?
I don't know why they've called it that. They've also spelled centre wrong, but I don't understand. Is there a driving centre there?
Yeah, apparently it's Hungary's first racing driver development centre is in there. I at first I thought that's a bit naff, but then I remember there's a corner called swimming pool, and that's iconic. So I sort of let that one go.
But having driving centres a little bit like into turn 1 or Asda, round into Matalan, it's a little bit like, yeah. And don't forget Haas, Red River says, don't forget Haas and their many, many years of overheating rear axle problems. I don't know if it was the rear axle at the time, but you talk about Haas reliability, I always go back to the Magnussen Grosjean one in Australia when they were on for a mega result and then they couldn't get the tyres on the wheels of the car properly. Williams has a B-spec car coming, says Nilesh. They have fundamental suspension geometry problems that have been really hurting. They're the next team we need to see turn it around. Cadillac get largely a pass for this year because it's their first year. Addy Boy says typical FIA weird decision. I'll ask you that actually, Stuart, before we do driver of the day, how did you feel about Antonelli's penalty yesterday? Because your mind immediately goes to, well, why didn't George Russell get one for a far worse crash? And I know when you break it down, it was a mistake. They should have gone double yellow. They were too slow to do it. So George did nothing wrong. But George only lifted a little bit and kept pole position. Antonelli lifts a little bit and loses third place on the grid. It doesn't feel consistent, but again, usual caveat, they've got so much data to look at that we don't, so maybe there's something we missed, but yeah, it feels inconsistent, even if it probably isn't.
Yeah, it was tricky, wasn't it? And he had quite a short time to kind of before he was right on the yellow when it turned yellow. I did read the stewarding document, and it did seem like he lifted very marginally and actually overall gained time through the corner because they compared it to other times he'd been to that corner. He actually ended up faster overall through that corner, and I don't know, do you count that the car's right on the edge of the corner and you can see it, and maybe you should have reacted to that. I mean, maybe it should have been double yellow, to be honest, because the car is right there and you can slam right into the side of it. But yeah, I mean, I kind of get it. The document read in a very fair and logical way, and we don't want people steaming through accident sites. I think maybe if you wanted to make them consistent, I probably would have been harsher on George than more lenient than on Kimi, to be honest.
Yeah, agree.
I think it's fair. You need to demonstrate that you've slowed down through the corner. And I don't really know why we're not in a position where, if there's a yellow flag, if you have to go through a yellow flag on your quali lap, then your quali lap doesn't count. I feel like that should just be it. It should just be removed.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, are we at a point now we just need to solve this issue by applying the double yellow flag rule to every yellow flag, because you shouldn't be speeding under any yellow flag. So if you just do it, you go through yellow flag zone, you've lost your lap, whatever, like track limit. So you've answered that one. I agree. But yeah, no, I read the document. There's nothing in there that makes me go, this is a disgrace. But I do agree with your point. If you were to change anything, George, it needs to be harsher on George than more lenient on Kimi. I do agree with that. It's definitely a penalty, but it's not as clear cut as I think sometimes these documents claim, because he does lift, but then apparently he's speeding again past Verstappen. So I don't know. That's qualifying. It doesn't matter. I just wanted to ask you because I haven't spoken to you about it yet. So I'm sure it'll annoy somebody, but whatever. Anyway, driver of the day. Max Verstappen got the official one. Chat, let me know who your driver of the day was. I'll read some out in just a moment. Who have you gone with this week, Stuart?
It was a toss-up between, I think, two quite obvious contenders. I went with the public this time. I went for Verstappen because despite moaning and complaining and seemed to have to fight an uphill battle the entire way, he salvaged a second place on very old soft tyres as well, I will add, from seemingly a very difficult place. And you've got to give him credit to that. I think that was the Verstappen effect in full force. Sometimes you just got to hand it to him. And he took that position back from Hamilton after the first round of pit stops, which I think was very decisive as well in where he ended up. So, the whole world was against him. The car was rubbish. Nothing was working right. But, once Hamilton overtook him, straight back past, didn't hesitate.
Yeah. Fair. I'll go Hadjar. No. Ghost Boy. I'll give it to Norris then. There you go. I think, the incident at turn 4, running wide at turn 2, sure, could have cost him today, but didn't. So, but I think he, as we've said a couple of times now between us, I think he would have had the pace to probably take that win anyway. I think he was the better of the two McLarens on speed. So I'll go with Norris. Verstappen was my pick, and you know how we like to do it slightly differently rather than picking the same one. So I'll go Norris. But shout outs to, again, Lawson, Lindblad, Hulkenberg. I think get a script. We'll give one to Alonso and a Stroll as well for not being last. There you go. But yeah, no, I think Norris for me, Verstappen for you, and I think some other contenders. I could say Russell because he came back, but then he should come back in that car. I'd say Hamilton.
It's hard to give it to someone you didn't see.
Yeah, well, that's true as well. Yeah. Driver of the day, Gasly. There you go. Was he there? I just on that penalty as well. I forgot to say, Stuart, we have to remember as well in Hungary, you have to lift for that corner anyway. So Kimi would have lifted whatever. So absolutely. I guess that's why it would have been more difficult. So yeah, I'm not saying George should have got a penalty in Austria. I'm not saying Kimi shouldn't. I'm just saying I can understand why people go, where's the consistency? But actually, as Stuart says, you go through the document, it does say fairly clearly what they're saying, or what they've decided. But it's the steward, you know what they're like. Hurricane says Lawson for driver of the day. Professional Moron's gone with Norris all the way. Nick has gone with Stroll. Cyber has said Norris, but it's auto corrected to is taking place. So well done, YouTube again. MSC Byler says that Max or Lewis. Snakey's gone with Hulkenberg. Jamie's going to say Kimi. Those are the drivers that win you a championship. Damage limitation. Very fair point. Very good. Can't win on your off days, and that's probably the max we could have got, and he's done it. So I gave it to Max simply because of his overtake on Lewis, even though he bitched all race, says Kaori, all weekend and all season so far, to be fair. That result, by the way, does is affirm the right word? Probably not, but makes me more confident in my prediction that Max will win a race this year. So there's that, even though he wasn't happy, but fair enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Red Raven says, I would like to give Stroll a shout. Criticism when it's due, but also credit where it's due. Absolutely. Pascal's gone with Hulkenberg. Stewie said Hulkenberg, and that auto-corrected to Hulkenberg. I'd have gone for Hadjar if he wasn't just a little more of a nuisance, says Nick. Neelish says driver of the day, Norris or Kimi, and maybe almost Stroll. I love my community because Stroll will always get some love when he deserves it, and even though it's only 13th, that's like a win for Aston Martin, isn't it? Versus where they were even a week ago. So I like that he's getting some love in there. Anybody else? Verstappen for P2 in third or fourth fastest car, says Anthony. Driver of the day is Albon. Can't prove me wrong, says Fanta Boy. Well, we never saw him. He could have done some amazing things, so I can't say that he wasn't because we never saw him. Moray says you could say Russell, but you would be wrong. CPB says Max to win his Zandvoort, and Jamie says Max, Brittany, Verstappen. There you go. if you have any questions, please do throw them in chat, and I'll come to you in just a moment. We've got to talk about the big talking point. Sepang is back, Stuart, and I think based on the messages I've sent to you this week, you can tell I'm quite excited by it. The probably gave it away. It's causing a bit of a stir though, because it's going to be the Bahrain Grand Prix at Spa, at Sepang, sorry, not at Spa, and that's annoying. Make it even
weirder.
It would be. That's annoying people, but I don't care, because the important thing is, you can call it what you like. We're going back to Malaysia and Sepang, so the track is what matters. But I'm sort of likening it a bit to, not the same, of course, but to when the UK hosted Eurovision on behalf of Ukraine. It's a little bit like that, in that Bahrain Malaysia are hosting it on behalf of Bahrain, but it's still going to be called the Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix in Malaysia. My thumbnail's going to be fun that week. But yeah, that's kind of it. Bahrain are paying for it. Malaysia are hosting it. They get the naming rights. That's fine. I don't care what they call it. They can call it they just call it race day. I don't care where it is or what they call it. It's in Sepang, Malaysia. And I said it yesterday. Sorry to ramble on and repeat myself from yesterday. It is only a one-off, but Turkey was only supposed to be a one-off. Portimao was only supposed to be a one-off. Imola. These tracks come back. They impress. They sometimes get a slot in the future on a calendar. So this could be the start of something, but even if it's just one race every 10 years, it's better than nothing. So I'll ask the question. I mean, I ask F1 fans this and they just go, well, duh. But are you happy to see Sepang back, Stuart?
Yeah, I am actually. I enjoy Sepang, and I think it was one of the better tracks we had that we unfortunately had to say goodbye to. I hope it works out well for these cars. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of high-speed corners through the middle of it. I think that's going to be great. They didn't have they announced the start time yet? Because Sepang is also night ready, isn't it? It could do a night race if they wanted it to. I don't know if they're planning on it. It's going to be the most humid Bahrain Grand Prix we've ever had. I'll tell you that.
And possibly the wettest as well.
Yeah, I mean, lots of things could happen in Sepang. We've seen some absolutely horrendous weather there. That would be a shame, wouldn't it, if we got a sort of 2009 style Sepang where it only lasted about 20 laps. That would be whoops. I'm looking forward to it. The only downside is it's just this colossally busy end of the season, just kind of non-stop, which I think could be a toll on a lot of people. I think we'll get away with it from our offices back here, but people who are having to lug everything around, I think it's going to be a tough one for them, depending on what happens with the end of the season, which is still a little bit up in the air. But yeah, I'm staying positive about it, and I'm like you. I think the name is fine. I think it reflects what's actually happening. We've had weirder things in F1. We've had a Sauber, Ferrari, BMW teams. So, we just roll with it.
I was thinking yesterday, actually, it's not uncommon. The Nürburgring hosted the Luxembourg Grand Prix in 97, was it? So it's not uncommon for that to happen. The issue that you and I both have with it, and I imagine those who track stats will be the same, is based on how stats are racked up in Formula One, somebody could win in Sepang and that win would get added officially to their Bahrain Grand Prix win tally, but it's a completely different track. It's a bit like the European Grand Prix has been held at least 5 tracks I could think of off the top of my head. But if you win at the European Grand Prix at Jerez and then you win at the European Grand Prix in Baku, that's 2 European Grand Prix wins. That's also a hell of a career, 97 to whenever the European Grand Prix was in Baku. But yeah, that's I don't like that. But then I don't like the fact that people count. Some people say, oh well, Lewis Hamilton did win a race last year for Ferrari. It was a sprint. Yeah, but it doesn't count. So I don't know. It's a little bit silly how they do stats in F1. Like pole position. You set the fastest time in qualifying, but pole position doesn't count until Sunday when you line up in pole position. And
there was one year with the first year of sprints when the pole position was who won the sprint race as well. It was like, so it's threw everything off.
It's just, but those little bits, they're annoying, but the most important thing is Sepang's back. I sort of do like the idea of the chaos of Imola in the season finale, but I'll mention this on stream. I know I think it was you I asked this of earlier, Stuart, but I do wonder if this might make Abu Dhabi and Qatar go, hang on a minute. Well, we'll do the Qatar Grand Prix at Portimao then, and maybe Abu Dhabi say, we'll do the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at Istanbul Park, and that might give them options, which I kind of like that F1 are finding ways around these problems rather than just trying to force a race to happen that was never going to happen at a track. I'm just very happy. But Imola, December, 5 degrees. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. As I understand it, from what I've read, Portimao and Istanbul are in the middle of upgrades and things to the track to get them ready for next year, and as I think they said, trying to host a Grand Prix in the middle of that would disrupt them getting ready for actually their proper Grand Prix next year. So that seems very unlikely to happen. But I could definitely see the race at Imola being sort of, fostering a Grand Prix under a different name as well, possibly. I mean, Imola would be a really weird track to end the season on, but it's been a while since we've been to a old school, dusty, held up by toothpicks kind of racetrack for a finale. We're normally at like the ritziest, glitziest, richest part of the world to bring us home for the end of the season, but doesn't always give us the best races, and Imola's a favorite too, so we'll see how that goes. But as for this, I'm very positive. I agree. I think this was a good solution to the problem they were having, and we'll get an extra race, which I think most people would say hooray to. So generally all around positive thing.
I tell you what, though, if it doesn't rain or cool down at all in Malaysia to Singapore is going to be a killer for drivers and teams, isn't it? How hot and demanding those tracks. Oh, good Lord. Oh,
I thought you were going to be like, it's so far away. And I was like, do you know where they are?
You could walk there. That's still a slog, though, isn't it? But, I mean, who knows? We might get the Qatar Grand Prix in Malaysia and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in Malaysia. Who knows? We might get 3 this year and then nothing for 20 years. But I'm happy to see it back. For a season finale, Imola, I love Imola, but if we're having a season finale, I'd rather go somewhere like the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. I know it's still cold, but we did have a race there in November once. So it is doable, and I think it's a better track for racing than Imola. Will be a bit Monaco without the barriers, taking that title from Hungary, seeing as that's not what it is anymore. But we'll see what happens. Usual caveats around geopolitics. Insert them here. You know that we do it every time we do these, but in our little F1 bubble, that's what we talk about. So frankly, anything's better than Qatar and Abu Dhabi to finish the season. So if they want to reshuffle and put Interlagos there, I'd be fine with that as well. We'll have a Brazilian Grand Prix and a Sao Paulo Grand Prix. There you go. I think it's fair to say pretty much everyone in chat is very, very happy with this decision. I think Blackhawk, so echoing what we've said, at the end of the day, Bahrain is paying for it to happen, so I don't mind if they call it that. They call it what they like, absolutely. I personally will be calling it the Malaysian Grand Prix, but they can call it what they like, says Max. It's definitely, it is at Sepang, not Spa. Yes, I did make that mistake there. Let's not make it a sprint race, Nick. Sorry, Anthony. No, let's not. Or spring race, I suppose. Yeah, could do. Rather sprint race, so I read that wrong. Germany holding a Swiss or Luxembourg Grand Prix, says Nick. So Nick got there before I did. Looking forward to Sepang. Great racetrack, says Pascal. And I hope the ticket sales are good, says Cyber, because it got taken off because so close to Singapore and everyone went there instead. Yeah, maybe that would actually encourage the Malaysian government, if they sell lots of tickets, to maybe put some funding behind it and try to get back on the calendar. So that's a good point. F1's worth a lot more now than it was when they dropped off the calendar in 2017. They kind of left at the wrong time, Malaysia, because that's when Liberty just came in, didn't they? But yeah, hopefully we'll see it back permanently. But that's where we're at. If you've got any questions, like I say, ideally related to the race, we'll do a few minutes of Q&A, but we'll pretty much answer anything, but ideally related to the race. Anything we've missed, let us know, and we'll chat about that. I don't think we've missed any other big news, have we, Stuart?
I don't think so. I'm just going to point something out that I find quite funny. So when we have these streams open, I normally have, one of the things I have open is the Wikipedia page for this season, because it has a little table with all the results of the year, of like where everyone finished. So I can quickly say like, oh, there you got, X got 2 wins and Max has had 3 podiums or whatever. But along the top of the table, it's got like, which rounds they are as the columns and the little flag. And it now has Bahrain, but with a Malaysian flag, which I find very funny.
Yeah. Sure. This is where it's going to get silly, isn't it, I suppose? But
yeah, which flag are they going to wave like in real life when we go there? Which national anthem are we going to play? What's going to happen?
It's a good point. I don't know.
To be decided.
Yeah. I will say this all has to be signed off still, but I feel like F1 wouldn't make an official announcement unless they knew it was going to get signed off. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but strange. Maybe try and fit in Watkins Glen or Indianapolis after COTA. Isn't Mexico, COTA, Brazil a triple header this year? They've at least learned their lesson on that one this season. So I don't think you can. And then it's a week off before Las Vegas, and then on to, as it stands, Qatar, then Abu Dhabi, but it could just be a week off, and then on to Imola or Portimao or wherever. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think it's a triple header.
It is. 25th of October, 1st November, and then 8th of November, and then your gap. So yeah, tricky. Yeah, running out of places to slot stuff.
Yeah, that was that one gap was the one obvious one, wasn't it, between Baku and Singapore? I've talked about it all year pretty much. It's that one gap I was like, keep an eye on that, because if they're going to slot anything in, it's there. So yeah, I got something right. I should have predicted that at the start of the season. There you go. We've already had the San Marino Grand Prix in Italy and Luxembourg Grand Prix in Germany, says Nick. Yeah, I mean, how many names has Imola had now? Emilia Romagna, San Marino, Italian Grand Prix.
I feel like I had another one, but I can't remember what it would be. I don't think it's ever had the European Grand Prix, had it?
I don't think so, no. John suggests he thinks Adelaide is a solution, because they're still racing there, so it'll be set up for that season finale. Q&A, what's the headline of the summer break, says Nilesh. Headline of the summer break. Do you know what I'd like it to be? I'd like it to be that Max Verstappen is staying where he is, because I really want to see how creative clickbait news sites have to get to try and talk for 2 weeks with nothing happening. So Max turning around tomorrow saying I'm staying where I am, and Fernando saying I'm staying for next year. It'll be so funny to see how many Ocon articles could you get out in 2 weeks that people are going to read. I kind of would like that, but I think it could be the big headline of the summer is Verstappen's future, what he decides to do. My gut is the same as it's been for a while now. I think he'll stay where he is. That's my view. Any ideas for ahead? Maybe something on the final 2 races, Stuart, but I feel like they're going to hang on as late as possible for that, aren't they? Not make a decision over the summer, but I can't think of any other major headline other than Verstappen leaving or Alonso retiring.
That's the thing, isn't it? I bet all the journalists are just dying for them to decide what's happening with the final 2 races of the season right in the middle of that summer break. That would do nicely, wouldn't it? But as far as I understand, September is their kind of self-imposed deadline. So maybe we won't see that. And again, if they confirm what the calendar already is, it doesn't give them much to talk about. I'm actually kind of want I'm kind of like you. I do kind of find it very amusing the way they kind of scrabble to make content in this 4-week break. But I do kind of want to see some significant driver changes and movings around, because I do actually really like all the speculation. I love people losing their minds over as soon as you open a seat up, who's going to go there? What does this mean for someone else? Et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think I would like the first bit of news to be Max Verstappen says he's not staying with Red Bull, and then no information to come out for the rest of the summer, like no idea where he's going, and people to lose their minds over it.
Where he gone? Max said Horner comeback. Could be. I mean, that rumor will not go away, will it? Maybe. Red Raven says, no offense to the journalists that try, but I'm so incredibly tired of sports media in general and feels incredibly like they are predators fighting over small scraps of meat. Yes. We'll not get into it again, but having spent a year in the inner circle, yes. Also, I will say this. My year in sort of in the inner circle, I had no idea F1 was as bitchy as it was. Wow, it's incredible. Anyway, and that's the teams. That's not even the journalists. Yeah, well, I guess from a business point of view, to be fair, they have to get clicks, don't they, to keep staff employed. So there's that. But I don't need to know every move that Lewis Hamilton's making in the summer. Thanks. If I wanted that, I'd follow him on Instagram. Wait for the Lewis Hamilton. Oh no, the car. Been a long season, it's only halfway. I was going to say wait for the inevitable Hamilton to Ferrari stories, but stretching it a little bit, wouldn't it, in the end?
Hate to break it to you.
When did he move? I tend to agree, but also it's why I wasn't dumb enough and changed my decision about going full time and picked up some extra shifts rather than going into the summer break going, I'm going to go full time YouTube, and then sitting down and going, oh, there's nothing to talk about. So that's why I waited for the season to start. There you go. I can't remember any big driver changes apart from Hamilton's Ferrari in the last few years, not counting the post Perez revolving door at Red Bull. Says IW. Last few years, yeah, I feel like Hamilton's was a surprise. But it had been rumoured for about 12 years, and it was kind of broken the night before, wasn't it? So it wasn't a shock when the news dropped. I feel like the last, and maybe someone will correct me and think of something else, but the last truly shocking move was Daniel Ricciardo to Renault, because that came out of nowhere. Everything was he's staying where he is. There were no rumours, nothing like that. He was staying, and then suddenly, I think it was race fans got the exclusive, didn't they? They just threw that hand grenade into the driver market, and that was it. But I'm trying to think of who the last one, a genuine surprise, one that hadn't been spoiled beforehand.
Piastri
McLaren maybe was a bit of a weird one, wasn't it?
That was funny. That happened in the summer, didn't it? That was very funny. Yeah. Something like that would be quite good again. We've got to that kind of little point again where all these talented young drivers are kind of like hitting the cork in the bottle and not being able to kind of get places in F1 again. And I think it's sort of all filled up again despite having an extra team. So I would like some of that to get flowing again. But yeah, I'd like another a big Piastri story. That'd be fun. Moray
says Alonso to Aston maybe. Ferrari firing Vettel. That was rumoured for a little while. Actually, Racing Point sacking Perez for Vettel. Perez had done his part to save that team, and apparently heard he was getting fired through a wall or something, didn't he?
That was pretty gross. But yes, I do remember that. That was a bit of a shocker, wasn't it? And it was part... No, did they already have Stroll by that point? No, they brought Stroll across the next...
No, Stroll was already there because it was the year before they became Aston Martin. That's why they wanted a big name. They went with Vettel, didn't they? Yeah.
Shocker.
Chat getting Ricciardo leaving Renault for McLaren was a bit of a surprise. They paid him off, didn't they? And Moray says Sean saying Alonso wouldn't go to Aston 24 hours before. It wasn't even 24 hours. That was the one. I've made myself look a tit on this channel and the other channel plenty of times. That was my dumbest. I sat on a race reaction and I said Fernando Alonso will not go to Aston Martin, and here is why. 14 hours later, it was confirmed he was off to Aston Martin, and I was like, well, I'm an idiot. There you go. It just didn't make sense to me at the time because it was a sideways move, but I suppose, there you go. He may yet return now. We'll see.
Williams worked out very, very briefly for him. Yeah. Very, very briefly. There was like, oh, has he made a good decision? Turns out no.
No, yeah. Williams dropping Sirotkin for Kubica, says Moray. A downside of the cost cap is there's less driver market drama, says Neelish. Would that impact the driver market at all? Because driver salaries aren't included, are they?
No, they're not included. So I don't know how that would affect things particularly.
Paying people off, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, possibly. Kimi bankrupt. I mean, Kimi Räikkönen bankrupt in Lotus. I mean, Kimi, didn't he walk away from his last race and that was it? We didn't see him again, did we? For Lotus, he was gone. But yeah, nothing will top Vettel to Ferrari, says Jamie. Trying to think when that happened. That was so long ago. Anyway, that
2015.
Forever ago.
Yeah. God, that is such a long time ago now.
Yeah. I mean, Kimi back to Ferrari was quite a surprise given how that ended. But now we're going back really far out. We certainly can't class that as the last few years. That was quite a while ago. But yeah, some strange moves over the years for sure. John just pointing out that Perez sacking left a very sour taste. It did indeed. Because he'd not done anything wrong, had he? He'd driven very, very well still. Perez was doing Perez things in that Racing Point Force India thing. So that was a real shame for him. But I suppose 4-time world champion, big name like Aston coming in, makes sense. But yeah. In the words of good old Murray Walker, anything can happen in Formula 1, and it usually does, says Nick. Jamie says F1 bitchy, stop it. Yeah, I know. I'm just how bitchy it was behind the scenes. The amount of times that a certain team would get in touch with PF1 and be like, you can't say that, you can't do that. Like, oh, shut up, it's journalism, go away. Well, journalism. You're forgetting the most shocking news each year that keeps everyone surprised. That is Stroll re-signing with Aston. I mean, I'll come back at you with another one, Blackhawk. So this time next year, we'll be having the same conversation about Verstappen. Happens every year when his clause is set to be triggered. Every time. Do you think Racing Bulls are now favourites for P5 and Audi for P7? Asks Pascal. I'm going to need to pull the championship now, aren't I? I forget things so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Constructors.
Well, Racing Bulls are 5 points ahead of Alpine right now, if I'm reading this correctly. So, you know, Alpine could emerge on the other side of the summer with a happy little upgrade and not make that so easy for Racing Bulls, potentially.
Yeah, Audi for 7th as well. 9 points off Haas. Haas sort of went backwards and have kind of stayed there. Aston have leapfrogged them now, but I think Audi have got a shot. What Audi need to stop doing is picking up 11th place finishes. Start picking up some points.
Yeah.
They're starting it now. But yeah, no, I can't see Williams, Aston or Cadillac threatening Audi. So I would say Racing Bulls or Alpine for 5th. Audi versus Haas for 7th. And I'm going to go Audi for P7, I think. Is my pick there. Just to keep Pascal happy more than anything.
Yeah, it's not a sure thing.
No.
Because Audi are not going to pick up, well, I say this, watch them prove me wrong, but I suspect Audi are not going to pick up loads of points on the regular, so it's going to be like a drip, drip, drip towards Haas. I think they're going to close that gap up and we'll see, you know, a couple of points a race on average, and that will be enough, I think. It's hard to, I mean, we don't even know how many races are left in the season for sure yet, so... But yeah, if you told me to put money on it now, I probably would say Audi will beat Haas to the end of it. But it's definitely no sure thing.
It's going to be fun fight. I think we're sure the top 4 teams are going to be locked in some order as Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull and McLaren. I can't see anybody causing a shock, but who knows what Flav's got up his sleeve post-summer break. Still got to go to Singapore, of course, with Flavio, so who knows. Anyway, I saw some blue flags which are worth... Nick says that I'd get rid of blue flags and have it like pre-95 when it was more of a gentleman's agreement and common sense. Navigating traffic was a skill in itself and the awareness of being lapped was too. I don't fully disagree, but I don't like the idea of... So, people get annoyed about this anyway, but Lindblad, title decider. Verstappen's going for the championship. Racing Bulls, Lindblad, his main title rival, let's say Antonelli, goes to lap Lindblad, and Lindblad just sits there and holds him up all race. That, to me, even as a Verstappen fan, would leave quite a sour taste for that championship, because you've used your second team to back up a title rival. I know that that's quite a specific thing, but it could happen. But I do agree that it was definitely a skill to get through blue flags, but they're there because the cars are substantially quicker and need to be getting on with their race. And we don't really want somebody getting clever at the back, like Bortoletto, damn him today, and nearly deciding positions like that at the front. I don't know, Stuart, do you agree? I mean, it's a fair point. It definitely was a skill to get around lap cars back in there.
I think I agree with the principle of it, in that it's sort of fair if it's the same for everyone, and then factoring in back markers into your strategy, like where you appear after pit stops and all that kind of thing, like how many back markers you're going to have to get through in your race. I think, sure, if it's the same for everyone, I think on the whole, I don't like things interfering with a race that have nothing really to do with it. If people are battling at the front, I don't really want 16th place cars having some sort of variability in that necessarily. And I definitely wouldn't get rid of blue flag rules and make it a free-for-all while organizations can still own multiple teams, which is the kind of scenario you brought up. Red Bull own 2 teams. They can orchestrate things more easily between them than other teams can. I definitely, I think realistically they're the only pair of teams that kind of like that. Like Ferrari used to have a bit of a thing going on with Sauber back in the day, but that kind of became less and less strong with time. So yeah, while that's still a thing, I definitely wouldn't put it in. But I think on the whole, I think we're better off with blue flags than without, especially how hard overtaking is now.
Yeah, and as we saw today, Sainz hit Piastri. There was a moment with Hamilton, and I think it was Alonso, it's certainly an Aston Martin, Bortoletto backing up Antonelli. I know it's maybe a track thing more than anything here, but it could influence the race. I don't like it, but I do like Jamie's idea. Jamie says, get rid of blue flags and add proximity chat. Imagine the radio messages. I'd be absolutely, totally for that. But yeah, no, I'd keep blue flags, but maybe I'd feel differently if I was a whopping great Colapinto fan or Sainz fan or something. Maybe I'd feel a bit cheated that they were having to slow down and lose time, but then they're in slower car. It's difficult. I mean, we're at the start of a regulation era, so we have kind of got 2 formulas, haven't we, at the moment, or 2 categories almost. We're back to the Formula 1 and Formula 1.5 days. We'll see a lot less lapping in 3 years' time kind of thing. So it feels like something that's cropping up now because of that, rather than something that'll be a long-term issue, but we'll see. Cameras are pretty dang good these days, says Duck Crook. Give the cars better mirrors. Could you put a camera in the mirror like you do in your road car when you're reversing? If you've got parking cameras. It's the weight's the issue, isn't it?
I guess, but if you give everyone the same thing, it's not going to be massive. But again, it's like, where do you put it? There isn't going to be a massive distraction. Like the screen on the steering wheel is already got, you don't want to like cover that up with other, I don't know. It's a potential solution. Maybe you could stick it behind the steering wheel like Williams used to do with their little screen, but I don't know. I think the blue flag situation it does sometimes cause problems. I don't think it causes enough problems for us to have to like rehaul the entire thing. I think we just have to like accept that sometimes things will not work out well.
It's a bit like the track limits conversation we had a few weeks ago, isn't it? It's an issue sometimes, but it's not consistently enough of an issue to then change the rules to fix it, if that makes sense. It's not something that's happening every weekend, is it, really? We saw some really bad blocking today, but usually drivers are very good with blue flags for the most part, and track limits doesn't always interfere. It just doesn't happen often enough for us to go changing the rules to fix it. But then let's not go down that road. But yeah, there are things that have happened in the past where you could. But yeah, I know I tend to agree. But I like the idea of giving the drivers more of a challenge. But I think with these cars, engine mode, or not engine modes, but the change they have to make on the steering wheel, the recharge. The last thing they need is something else to have to think about. But then they are supposed to be the best drivers in the world, so
exactly.
Yeah. Maybe in terms of mirror placement, you could hang them off the halo for completely 100% visibility reasons and not for aero purposes. A Ferrari. I love that argument. Do we think the heat wave and wildfires would contribute to how dirty the track was today, says All-Wheel Dingus? I don't know, but I was surprising how the dust just never seemed to go anywhere, did it? Usually the dust cleans up over a weekend, but it was just always seemed dusty this weekend at Hungary, which was strange. Whether that stuff's still lingering around after all the work they've been doing, or they were grinding the track down, weren't they, as well, in between days? So maybe that's a factor, but it was just quite surprising. Usually the dust clears quite swiftly.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it always is pretty dusty, and it's inside a sort of amphitheater, sort of bowl shape. So it all kind of blows in from the outside and then struggles to get out again. So it's always been a problem here, and it kind of keeps the racing line clean and the off racing line a bit trickier. I think maybe this year things were a little bit drier than usual, so we got a bit more dust. I don't know. I think you're going to get some variability year on year. So I don't know necessarily I don't think the wildfires necessarily would contribute, but maybe the heat wave just dried everything up, which made the soil a little bit looser and able to kind of float around a bit across the weekend.
I'll read one more question, then one more comment, then I'll ask a question to everybody and Stuart, and then we'll wrap up for today. But Black Hawk So says, I just thought what the content farms will talk about over the break. Content farms, love it. V8 and the BS rumour spec engine's been bought in. I've seen that one a couple of times from sites that I have never ever heard of. Yes, we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to put a question to your chat now. Thank you for all your comments. I'm going to put Stuart as well. We are not quite now, are we? If the calendar stays as it is, we're not quite at the halfway point, but I'm always going to count the summer break as a halfway point. Sticking your neck on the line, Stuart, and everybody, who do you think will be world champion come the end of the season, whenever or wherever that may be?
It's a tricky one.
It's really tough.
I mean, at this point, I don't know how you stop Antonelli. I think much harder question is who's going to come second at this point. But I don't know how you... Well, who's going to come second in the drivers, I think, much more up for grabs. And I think, as you alluded to earlier, who's going to win the constructors, I think also potentially up for grabs if Mercedes continues to struggle with getting both of their cars to be successful on one weekend. But Antonelli's just got this kind of magic wind under his heels at the moment. Like, even he's had some bad unlucky weekends and reliability issues and stuff. But even on those weekends, it was like he seemed set to win. And on a weekend like this, when things are a bit against him, he still salvaged a podium. Like I say, he's like one of those people that things just seem to come to. So he's going to need a serious run of bad luck to have this taken away from him, I think. And that just doesn't seem to be happening to him.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say, this time last year, it wasn't on a reaction because of decisions made by higher ups, because it didn't exist this time last year. But at the end of the race watch along for whatever the final race was, I assume Hungary last year, I and the majority of chat said Piastri would win the world championship. He finished third. So I agree with everything you've said there, and I think if I'm saying it today, I think Antonelli wins it. But I would always put that little caveat on there that Max Verstappen, after Zandvoort even, was over 100 points behind Antonelli and finished ahead of him and only 2 points off the title. So in a year where the development race is already showing how quickly things can change and there's going to be a lot more development, it's going to be... It could still swing, but I think at the moment, I can't remember what his lead is exactly, but I can't see how it isn't Antonelli. That said, will the luck shift in the Mercedes garage? Sometimes it does, doesn't it? It's weird F1 like that. So, but yeah, I would say Antonelli. Second place, I'm going to say it's really boring. I'm going to just read the championship now. Second place, probably Hamilton. If things carry on as they are for George, though, I could see Leclerc pipping him to third. in the
I
standings.
think that would devastate him.
Yeah. But then Leclerc needs some more consistency. He's not he won Silverstone. He's been better since then, but he's had a very up and down season, hasn't he? So I don't know. Today it feels like it's going to be Antonelli, but again, with the usual caveat, look how last year changed. Look how McLaren came back at Max Verstappen the year before.
Yep.
Things can swing. So we're not saying he will win it. We're just saying right now it looks like he's the favourite. So what we said in chat quickly then. I assume this emoji is from Zach is Antonelli. The spicy meatball. I assume. Nick says Kimi. Max says Lewis Hamilton. Ooh, imagine the noises Crofty will make if Lewis Hamilton wins the championship. Good Lord. Morris says an F1 driver. Oh, that's bold. Red Raven says Lewis Hamilton, and we all have exactly zero idea how the hell that happened. Maybe. Kimi says Anthony. John says, I think Ferrari are going to take the constructors. I actually agree, and that's not because I'm biased. I think there are enough reliability problems at Mercedes to leave that door wide open for Ferrari, so I think, yeah. This is how it's going to end, says Jamie, confidently. Kimi P1, Lewis P2, Charles P3, George P4. Do you have the current tables in a graphic? Because I can't picture it off the top of my head. I haven't, unfortunately. I have got one ready for when I go full-time, so I've got one started, so... It doesn't help you today, mate, but it might help you in a few weeks. I honestly feel that Hamilton might just take it as got the feeling the second half of this season is going to be a bit wild to Stewie. We've got about 100 races in 8 weeks to squeeze in, haven't we, in the second half of the year? So a lot of Grand Prix to get through, so it's a good point. Sort of a disaster if it's not Kimi, says Neelish. Pascal says Ferrari for the constructors. McLaren have papaya rules. Actually, hear me out, Sean, says Jamie. What if Lando pips P4 and George is P5? Oh, God. I think George would retire if that happened. Kimi, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, Russell is the final shout from Moray. Charles is due a title, says CPB. I would love that. And Aston to win the second half of the season, says Nick. There you go. We'll leave it there then. Interesting. Surprising mix actually there. I thought everyone was going to say Kimi, but maybe they've learned from last year and I haven't. We'll find out. Thank you very much, Stuart. It's been fantastic to talk to you again this afternoon. A good race in the end. Maybe not the best, but pretty decent. And thank you for your help and chats over the first half of this season. And maybe you'll appear again in the second half. I'd be surprised if you didn't, but you never know. You might go win the championship for everybody. There you go. Keep it interesting.
Yeah, I think I'll appear on this stream in the second half of the season, but I'm just not going to say anything and you won't talk to me. I'll just sit in the corner and I'll be the ghost child of Formula Sean Gogglebox. No, yeah, thanks for having me. That was an interesting race and sets us up, I think, for the summer break nicely. So yeah, I'll see you on the other side, hopefully. And goodbye to everyone in the chat. You've all been great.
Yes. I'm sure we'll talk again before then, but yeah, hopefully see you on a stream very soon, Stuart. Pleasure as always. Thank you very much, and I'll chat to you in a bit.
Bye for now.
I'm going to let's press the right button. There we go. Thank you very much to Stuart, and of course to you guys as well for tuning in. Absolute pleasure as always to chat to you all, and to Stuart and Jonty and everybody who features on these streams. Maybe we'll try and squeeze Will in at some point before the end of the year. Maybe get him on a few. That could be a laugh because Will does make me giggle. And he likes his F1, so there you go. Just end this poll super quickly. Rate the 2026 Hungarian Grand Prix. 52% said good. We've got a majority. 29% said okay. Great said 15. 15 said great. And 4% of you said bad. So thank you very much for your votes on that one. What was I going to say? Nothing. That is it for the first half of this season, and we'll call it the first half, whatever happens, because of course we've got the summer break right around the corner. In fact, it's officially the summer break doesn't start for another week, but we'll take it from today. So to reiterate what I keep saying, I will be back full-time on this channel, or starting full-time on this channel, from the Zandvoort race week, the Dutch Grand Prix, in a few weeks' time. I think that weekend we worked out yesterday there'll be at least 4 live streams, possibly 5, so we will be back to it from there. got my other job to do over the summer, so there'll be the odd bit of content out, but don't expect tons. But I'll get what I can out. It's a summer break. Most of you are going to disappear anyway, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, back full time for Zandvoort. So I will be back soon with some more content as always. Thank you for your support in the first half of the season. If you haven't already, please do drop a like on the stream and subscribe if you are new, so you don't miss all of that content to come later in the year, or through the summer break and then later in the year. I think this could be a fun end to the season, even if Antonelli romps away with it. It's a nice close field, so I'm excited for that. You can support the streams and the channel through Patreon and memberships if you would like to. Link in the description. There will be some exclusive content on there at some point soon to try and encourage a few people to get on that road. We'll see what happens, but no pressure as always. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Formula Sean, and until next time, goodbye.